there's no way that the base population there is supporting these political goals and ideals of those who become elected. So it's a real corruption of the process, that's changing our country in a way that most Americans feel is too much. It's not reflective of what real Americans, quote unquote, real Americans, whatever that means, want in this country.
But
So
yeah, Doc, look, right, I've said this before, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand this, but the only thing that differentiates a legal and an illegal is a piece of paper. So, like, let's look at birthright citizenship, right? It's a given that you're saying that Americans feel if somebody comes into the country illegally or overstays their visa, and then they go and have children, or a child, as a result of that child, everyone gets citizenship. And Americans don't want that. I get it, fine. But then do you know what? You've got hundreds and thousands of H-1Bs coming in from India who are there, quote unquote, legally. They're all going to stay. They're all going to have kids. They're all going to get residency. They're all going to stay. And they are the people that are occupying your country. Doc, you know I've said this for a long time, well before October the 7th, that you're occupied by Israel and India. And this is well before H-1B came up. Well before Trump's cabinet with Kath Patel and, all of these people came up. Well before, under Biden's
Can you
cabinet,
hear
I
me?
used to say that there's underlying occupation of America by India massively, massively. Doc, we did spaces on it. So
Can you hear me, Sully?
this is a problem, right?
yeah,
Getting no sound from you, Sully. Yeah, got you now. Is the sound coming through okay?
Yeah.
They're brought in because they're dependent on the state, and that ensures their vote through liberals who are bringing them in. The H-1B visa thing, I think, comes at the expense of American workers, but those who get the H-1B visas are contributing, are paying taxes, and are, whether you like it or not, they're here legally under a process that's been voted on.
One sec.
Defined in the law. The question of the 14th Amendment, really, there's been an extension of its original intent, which was to make sure that slaves, former slaves, could be treated as citizens as with adult children.
Yeah, just one sec.
But it really did not encompass the way that it
Just waiting for Doc to finish this point.
period of time. And I'll just wind up by saying I think Trump has an argument that there is a legal argument to be made. It's not an ethical or necessarily a moral argument, but it is a legal one which should constrain the Supreme Court's rulings. But they're not going to like being big-headed by the executive branch, which we're supposed to be, three co-equal branches: representative, judicial, and executive. And all three branches are protected with their power base. And I think Trump's just made a huge mistake by going there and scowling at the justices, which I'm sure is what he did. So unfortunately, we don't. The Supreme Court doesn't allow video in the courts, so we can't really tell exactly.
Thanks for that.
Hey, Doc, let's go back to Sulaiman with his hot mic. Do you want me to go through the news quickly, Sulaiman?
Oh no, I've got Simon on for the interview, and then we'll go for the news straight after that, if that's okay. So this interview, Simon. Obviously, let me just quickly set her up.
Is it the Simon Dixon?
Yeah, it's the. Let me actually put it in the title.
The Simon Dixon.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Okay, press record. hope it doesn't go down. The YouTube went down. We're live back on YouTube as well, guys. Just want to welcome Simon Dixon onto the show. Obviously, we've not had a financial update for a few days now, and the market is... There's a roller coaster when it comes to the market. We've got Simon Dixon on, who is a financial expert. Simon, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
Okay, really good. Thanks for having me back, Sully. I know you got the blue suit now rather than the grey suit. And I'll make sure this goes up on my YouTube video. So yeah, the markets are currently right now believing that this is coming to an end imminently, despite the fact that the military operations are preparing for a ground invasion. So the market is completely disjointed. Last weekend, prior to the market close, we had maximum escalation narrative, which led to all of the key points at which you have to have a capitulation. So we talked about the yield on the 30-year Treasury, that was at the 5% mark. The 10-year Treasury, which pretty much sets the benchmark for mortgages, that was at 4.5%. And the price of oil was hitting that $115 range again. Obviously, it's disjointed with West Texas oil WTI versus global Brent crude versus Omani Brent crude, which was like 150 peak, came back down again. But pretty much we had like the peak capitulation leading into the weekend. Over the weekend, we had lots of escalation in terms of no sign that this is coming to an end, other than the back and forth between the conditions. America had put out their 15-point plan. Then Iran had put out here's our 6 conditions. There's, are we talking, aren't we talking? There was the belief that there is talks in Pakistan that may be brokered via China, but there's lots of confusion. And so the market was hitting peak fear. The VIX is the volatility index. That was about 30, which is very fearful in terms of how the market is seeing things, as well as the bond market measured by MOVE. And the dollar's been strengthening throughout this whole process. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a good thing, but that's the exact opposite of what was happening prior to this and what needs to happen in order for America to deal with its debt situation and also to grow more independence and rebuild a manufacturing base. In order to achieve those goals, you need the dollar to come down. And now it reversed throughout this whole war. Now, what happened today and since the market opened, is it looked like everything was going to get worse. So higher oil prices, higher 30-year yield, higher 10-year yield, more fear, and a strengthening dollar. But then we basically had this Truth Social post where Trump kind of capitulated, said, this is NATO's problem. We don't care. We'll end the war, and we don't really care what happens to the Strait. Everyone else can figure that one out. And the market loved it. It was a massive relief rally. The move was astronomical. Which, if you're trading these markets, firstly, you've got to be an insider. But the volatility is unbelievable and massive mispricing. Because if this doesn't come to an end and there's any type of escalation narrative, and Trump's giving a public speech tonight, and if the market doesn't like what he says, then we're going to have a massive reversal, massive market manipulation as well. If he comes out and says the Strait is open, Iran's agreed, and then Iran comes out and says, yes, we've agreed, we've reached terms, then you'll continue into the market that we were having before. Weakening dollar, lower yields that help with the debt, and the stock market will continue to rally. But there was a massive move up in the market. And so the market, for whatever reason, is not in line. And we also had gold coming up as well. So now we've got oil prices that are kind of flat. We had gold coming up a bit, but all the metrics that matter to America all got better. So interpret that what you will.
Well, in terms of what happens in the market, I mean, today Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, came out and said, we are not going to be involved in this war. I believe the Australian leader said the exact same thing. What is the reason why someone like him would make that decision from a financial perspective?
I mean, the UK is in no position. You know, the UK is not world reserve currency. You can't print money to infinity like America is right now. Now, we've got major issues in the UK. We are close to a state of emergency in terms of some of our supply chains. Australia just put Australia into a state of emergency in terms of its access to oil and energy. At the moment, there is a global jet fuel crisis. So even America does not have enough jet fuel, even though it is energy dependent with different types of energy sources. So in the UK, you know, the island that I'm on right now, we haven't had diesel for a couple of days. I've cancelled all my travel because I don't want to get caught on the wrong side of some kind of lockdown policy or, you know, some kind of force majeure on airplane contracts, and then suddenly you're not allowed to fly and you don't get a refund, or, you know, and the price is absolutely astronomical for the average person to fly right now. So we're starting to get those real changes in behavior. But in terms of the UK right now, we're potentially going into negative growth. You know, we've got one of the highest energy prices in terms of at the gas pump to fill up your petrol. And we've got, we're about to receive our last shipment of jet fuel, diesel, like in today, I believe. Or so if we don't find a new source of energy, then you can imagine that we're going into a state of emergency too. But economically, UK is headed for negative growth, high inflation, a property real estate market correction, and our stock markets are underperforming the US stock market again. The currency is also weakening. The only thing we can do is austerity. Now, if we have to enter into some kind of lockdown that shuts off economic activity, we start getting bankruptcies in airplanes, any of those types of infrastructure. UK is a very small player, but it was doing a bunch of stuff in AI. All of these plans, all these growth plans, you know, are going to effectively disappear. And we are just a casino of financial speculation with yield prices that are going through the roof, a debt to GDP that's completely unsustainable, and an energy crisis that's only going to go from worse. So the last thing we can do is enter into a war. But if we do, then what that would be is it would make our debt worse, our economy worse, but it would stimulate some sales because the average Brit would be paying for it through, because, you know, we're not balancing our book right now. And then it would just go into BAE Systems and a couple of energy stocks on the FTSE, as well as some of the military stocks.
So one of the things that you mentioned very early on, as well as the other financial experts such as Robert, Darkside, Gary, various others who came on the space, said that, look, if the Strait of Hormuz doesn't open by the weekend, by the next week, we're going to be in a severe issue. And yet, 33 days in, the strait is still closed. And the only thing that's kept oil prices down and kept the financial stock market from capitulating is Trump's words. And each time he makes a statement, the market seems to just believe him. But we're 33 days in and the war continues. So I guess my question to you is, where do you put your prediction now in terms of how much more longer the Strait of Hormuz can still remain closed? And in addition to that, why is it that his words can have such an impact despite the fact that nothing's really changed? The war continues to happen. I know you've said previously that those words will have less and less impact as they go on, but we're seeing the opposite. It's actually like those words continue to have impact. Those statements continue to have impact on the global financial market.
Yeah, it continues to surprise me as well. There is one explanation, that those that have access to the highest level of capital, i.e. the financial industrial complex, they have access to the information that Trump is feeding them. And so this could be one of the biggest cases of market manipulation, and the markets moving based upon what Trump says. But in the end, you can't trick the market. You know, the bond market will rip out, oil prices will rip out, stock markets will crash based upon and we will get real economic impact. So there's a bit of a delay at the moment between the real economy and the markets. And the market is always a leading indicator for the real economy. But I think the market is so manipulated right now because I think there's massive intervention. And I think that my guess has always been, if you think right back at the beginning, I remember we were on a space and Darkside read a headline from FT that COMEX, the Commodities Exchange, came out and asked the US government to stop manipulating prices or something to that effect. I still think there's a massive structural short position. The US Treasury has bet big on the price of oil crashing, which implies massive confidence in the belief that there will be a deal. And that just can't be a fake deal, because that would just be a fake out that would just lead to, more volatility and less trust. But at the moment, in general, the market believes Trump, despite the fact that he is so incredible. And I don't mean incredible in a good way. I mean uncredible. That his credibility is absolutely thing. So I still continue to believe that the only way to have an economy is to reach a deal. And the only thing I can make sense of what's happening right now is that there is some escalate to de-escalate, because we know that they're not doing so far a long-term ground invasion, as per the analysis you've been sharing in terms of 600,000 troops. This is either a creep, which takes us into an absolute depression and economic disaster, or they're escalating to de-escalate. And part of that is whatever we're speculating on is going to happen next. But the market's not going to like it if this doesn't de-escalate. And Iran has already come out and they've listed all the tech companies that they're going to be targeting within the Gulf states. They followed through on their promise in terms of universities. And so Iran has been doing everything they say they're going to do. And the next step is to hit a bunch of technology companies in the Gulf states.
Which they've already done. Last night they did bomb Google. It was, I believe it's Bahrain, or was it Kuwait? I think it was Bahrain's largest telecommunication network, which housed Amazon. So I believe that this has already started to happen. In terms of, so you've already explained that now. So in terms of the market perspective, you're talking about a state of emergency for Australia, a state of emergency possibly for the UK. What does that actually look like? Is there certain rules that are put in place? Like, what is a state of emergency?
Yeah, it's a creep towards a lockdown. Basically, everyone needs to change their behavior. They need to consume less energy. They need to work from home. They need to travel less. They need to think about everything they can do to conserve energy for the country. And really, this isn't like a COVID situation where you might be skeptical or something like that. This is, well, if we've got no energy, then community, we need to conserve it. So people will comply. Yeah. If my government says to me, conserve energy, then as a community, I'm going to conserve energy. This isn't me resisting by consuming more energy. Exactly. This is how do we all help each other. So this is a hook, line, and sinker for a World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and be happy. Create an inflationary cycle, create an energy crisis, and change consumer behavior.
You are rubber banding a bit, Simon. I don't know if it's me or you, but you are rubber banding. And you're frozen. Guys, can you see me? Is it a problem with me, or is it a problem with Simon? What is the issue? If you guys can let me know. But in the meantime, I think Simon is stating something extremely important, which is that they've managed to put us in a situation where, okay, during COVID, you may have been able to resist them being able to state that, look, I'm not going to follow the rules. In the north, we did not follow the rules. We did not follow any of the rules. But that being said, if they only say that, look, you've only got a limited amount of energy and you can only use that energy during XYZ time, then it's going to be highly, highly problematic. You're going to end up following the rules. You're going to end up bending the knee and agreeing to what they want. So he's quite right in what he's saying there. I'm not sure what's happened, Simon. I don't know if it's my internet. Guys, on the X space, is everything okay? Should I remove you and then you can come back on maybe? Because you've just frozen. Let me remove Simon and then you can... Oh, he's back. He's back. You're sorted now, Simon. We can see you. Okay, brilliant. Let's wait. Okay, Simon, yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
Which version though? I can hear audio from one and then should I remove the other one and add this one? Is that better, Simon?
Yeah, it never stopped working for me. If you like, Sulaiman, we can cut this one short and do another one the next as well, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So, Simon, just a last question. Which way do you think the Trump speech is going to be if we do quick 30 seconds and then we'll wrap it up?
Look, I'm expecting a deal, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we need some kind of massive escalation theater to get to a deal. So I don't think we're there. So maybe the market's going to be disappointed and this will be a big whiplash. Please don't trade based upon that because I got no real idea. This is, peak insider type of what do I know? Yeah. But I think we're going to have if I were to bet one way or the other, I don't bet, but I think we're going to have something that the market's disappointed with and then some kind of whiplash.
Yeah. Okay, Simon, people can find you on, and we will do this again tomorrow. I think I've got a lot more questions. I just need to figure out if this is happening from my side or yours. But Simon, people can find you on X, which is Simon Dixon Twit, which is, and you're on the X space, so people can follow you. And also your YouTube channel, which is Simon Dixon 21. I know you're blowing up on YouTube. Very important. You do live streams on every Friday, which is a good few hours to give you the market update throughout the week. So yeah, that's right, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. And to my my viewers as well, Sulaiman's by his name, Sulaiman Ahmed, on YouTube. I think he's having a bit of censorship, so he needs some support right now. I exclusively do most of my spaces with Sulaiman so that we don't fracture the community, and we try and, we've got a wide range of views, but we all share them together on one space. So if you're following me on X, you'll find me most days if we're getting massive censorship now, where even at the top of X, you can't even see our spaces anymore. Yeah. So just make sure that you click on my profile and you can find me on spaces, and it will normally be hosted by Sulaiman.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it as always. A wealth of knowledge is Simon Dixon. So we'll see you back on the space, Simon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, that was Simon Dixon. I'm gonna get the space back up for you guys. I actually don't think it's Simon's. I think it's mine because I've literally got a new internet today that I went live, and it's probably got a new internet today that I went live, and it's got a new internet. Okay, we're back on the X space. Beatrix, are you there? No.
I'm here.
Oh, brilliant. Simon, I think it might have been mine, to be honest. I'm going to ring the internet company now to find out if it was or not. But
yeah, but expect these infrastructure issues, honestly. I'm getting weird things that are happening as well. Because we're getting servers around the world being blown up. We're getting energy issues. So you could just imagine there's a slow creep towards like weird infrastructure things happening.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got Robert on the stage as well. We've got Hassan on the stage as well. Before we go to the financial bit, because I do want to talk about that. Hassan, what's your is there anything you want to add about let me actually give the super chats a while and you so it says Simon is swimming over to David to get some oil. That's a fake background. Sully looking fresh boy. You too, Simon, rocking that beard, my G. So yeah, people loving it. People loving it. Okay, Hassan, what's your thoughts about the Trump speech and how do you think it's gonna go?
Hold on, just on that,
Go.
I've got to pick Beatrix. Has got a couple of bags of diesel for me, so I do have to swim over. She's been going around with straws and getting it for me.
Yeah, there has been witnesses and videos being taken of that occurring. But yeah, go ahead, Hassan, jump in.
Yeah, make sure you get those jerry cans filled up, guys, for at least a few of them, just in case things really go bad. Yeah, good a couple of interviews, Sulaiman. Nice to hear them. In terms of Trump, I really believe that they're going to do a ground invasion. I can't say for sure, but I just don't see any other way out of this for them right now, other than to keep doubling down. I really think this is a sunk cost fallacy. He leaves now, he's humiliated, and his only way is to try to cling on and find some way to get a win. So it sounds like suicide, but the reality is they have to try and find some kind of result that they can take and sell to people, whether it's occupying an island, taking a piece of land, some kind of tactical victory, which looks good. This is what they're hoping for, and even then, I think they'll continue. Look, I think there's a good chance that this is actually World War III. I know that sounds dramatic, but I feel that this has gone so far now. They've got so far deep in. It's like they're stuck in the mud and they just can't get out. And what surprises me is the way the market responds. I'm just like, why is how is oil dropped from 120 to 103 or 102, $101 in if just like that rapidly? Something's not quite right. Like surely people know not to trust him. At least not. They shouldn't impact things that much. So I don't quite understand what's going on that front really. So yeah, that's my analysis of that situation. In terms of more widely, one of the positive things I've seen come out recently, I always pay attention to all the different trends, how the different movements are happening around the world. And I've noticed that there's a big trend now for more and more Muslims to unite behind the Iranian cause. I've seen people on 5 pillars, the Dili Hussein, these kind of people become more positive towards the Islamic Republic. Unfortunately, they can't kick off this kind of sectarian madness around Syria war, claiming that they've done war crimes and pointing to Israel, although they've softened it down a lot. But nonetheless, it's really good to see more and more people coming behind the Republic. I always said that the minute the Muslims unite is the minute that this fake entity, would collapse. So it's really good to see that there's movement on that front, and it's always good to mention that this space has always remained non-sectarian, unifying people, Muslims, non-Muslims, everyone behind the resistance. And there was one really interesting quote I saw on Instagram, which said that 47 years, the world has been basically sanctioning the Islamic Republic, and then 23 days, and it's like it might just stands firm. 23 days of the Republic sanctioning the world, and the world's kind of already falling apart. And it just shows you the resilience of the Republic, of the Iranian people. I'm not Iranian, but huge admiration to them for standing up. I think a ground invasion is coming. I don't know whether it's going to be from Kuwait or from the UAE. I suspect it's going to be from one of those two countries, most likely. And if it is, I hope that the required response is given.
Thanks for that. Appreciate that, Hassan. Yeah, I do think there's going to be escalation. I do think the ground invasion's coming. I agree with you on that. Robert, thanks for joining us. Simon as well, same thing to you. Simon, the other question I was going to ask you, and maybe you and Robert can answer this, is that on the video was that they're using this method to like Trump's statements to keep the prices down, but like the way I understand it is if they were to do that and when he keeps doing it, cause it's so artificially kept down based on his statements, if there is actual major escalation, that you'd basically have it where it's like a bubble that blows up and actually that'll just crush the market a lot quicker. Is that how it is? If not, if you guys can explain.
I agree. I don't think this volatility is good for overarching markets. I think the confusion benefits insiders that know, what these moves are going to be. It removes integrity in markets. And I've always my long term theory in terms of why, I believe that no presidents are voted by the people. And so I've always asked the question, why was Trump installed? And for me, he's an agent of chaos in order to dismantle all of the credibility in the institutions that prop up the dollar. And obviously, the biggest benefit is financial markets. And I think, the most liquid and most valuable market in the world by a long shot is the American markets. But these just create confusion. People were seeing significant overvaluations in equities anyway. It was kind of structural because everyone started passively investing in ETFs, and so therefore everyone's pensions, everyone's insurance premiums, all the endowment funds, they were all just structurally investing in these markets. But I think the more confusion you make in the market, the more just people just say, right, well, let me just park this cash. I'll choose gold while we have this transition. Some would say Bitcoin in self custody. Others will say I'll just hold it in bonds because I'm not quite sure where these things are going. So I do think it's creating structural damage to the markets. And I would have thought at this stage that Trump's credibility in moving markets would have diminished. But there were that relief rally yesterday. That was a surprise to me in terms of how seriously the markets take what Trump says, and that has to be met with action. Otherwise, there's just kind of this theme that we've turned all the markets into just degenerate gambling, and everyone's kind of playing these these short-term speculative games, just based upon enjoying the volatility. That's the best I can really come up with. Maybe Robert's got another view.
There's one thing, sorry, very quickly, Sanders, I'm going to just interject. Do you remember yesterday I said about Pejashkian making those comments? I've seen on social media that might have been something pushed or created as as fake news to try to manipulate the markets, and there's been denial that he actually said that. So it's possible that people have lost so much faith in the U.S. regime, the Epstein regime, that they've actually having to push fake news, pretending that the Iranians are wanting a ceasefire in order to manipulate the market. That's where we've got
That
to now.
did give a lot of credibility to the relief rally because they got, people don't fully, in general, only sophisticated people or people that follow this or people outside, the US kind of bubble, they understand how the Iranian government is set up. And so, when you get an announcement saying, that did provide credibility to it, but the really important thing is to understand the potential for manipulation, because although it was a direct quote, and Hassan just gave some evidence that it may not have been direct, but if it was, remember, you can just use the timing of the press release in order to sync it up with a Truth Social post, and maybe it was said in a different context at a different time. Then you can just get the press to release it at that exact moment, and there is a lot of money to be made from that relief rally. And remember, there may be massive positions that are structurally trying to be offloaded right now, and so you use these rallies in order to unload your position, and just really, get your positions off while you're moving into some kind of, relief here. Sorry, some kind of position here. But yeah, you got to be very careful if you're on these headlines. Robert, over to you.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that, about half of the volume in the S&P 500 is some kind of algorithm, a lot of them being high frequency trading algorithms. So yeah, I've even heard 70%, 65, 70. So it's pretty wild how much volume is coming from computers, right? That all they are doing is reading those headlines. They're trying to take in the data as quickly as possible, and then execute a trade. Hopefully make 10 cents, 20 cents, that kind of thing, over and over and over again. That's kind of the purpose of a HFT. Really good movie, by the way, Hummingbird Project. It's kind of funny. It's kind of dramatized, but it explores that kind of HFT world for people that are nerds like me. But yeah, so you have to remember that a huge amount of capital, a huge amount of volume is coming from basically people, things without a brain, right? You as a human read that headline and you put it kind of into the context of your opinion of Trump, your the history, short-term and long-term history. You put it into the context of what you've seen in the media, right? You make a whole kind of in-depth analysis of that headline. HFT or algo. So yeah, I think that when it comes to what's going on, and this was true even before the war. But yeah, I'll just point out that kind of in a bear market, I'm not saying definitively that we are definitely in a bear market now, but if you are in a bear market, you get some really, really sharp rallies, right? Some of the sharpest upward moves come in a bear market. And I think that a short squeeze could have been part of it, could have been a dealer net gamma situation. So what that refers to is options, right? People know options. On the other end, the person selling the call or the put to you, that's the dealer. And they are either overall net positive gamma or net negative, net short. And so what you get there, you can get amplification. So if dealers are net short gamma, what that means is as the price goes up, they have to buy more of whatever, right? S&P, whatever it may be. As the price goes down, they have to short more. And so the move is amplified when dealers are net short gamma. When they are net long gamma, that refers to kind of a dampening effect where, if the price goes up, they provide the dealer on the other end, and the delta hedging that goes on is kind of providing a dampening effect. So there's, a lot of mechanical things moving markets nowadays. It's probably over most people's head what I just said, but all that to kind of say, there's really a lot moving markets. And, if you're a trader, and you follow this stuff, then it's kind of fun. It's volatility is nice, right, when you're a trader. But yeah, if you're just kind of a normal person, I would not try to short. I would not try to time the dip and go long. I would just make your decision whether or not right now the risk fee is compatible with your risk, whatever trade, whatever capital allocation your decision you're making, whether that be stocks, whether that be gold, whether that be Bitcoin, right? Make your kind of assessment, right, of the situation going on with not only the Middle East, but oil, right? Energy, which feeds through, as I've kind of been laying out in other spaces, kind of make your overall view and then determine, how much risk you're willing to take. And I would just kind of recommend that. I mean, I can't give financial advice. I'm not licensed or anything. That's just what I'm doing. I do trade, right? But very, very small portion of my kind of overall capital is trading. And the rest, I just kind of make a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month view, right? And then just kind of stick with that right now. I think for me, I'm very heavily cash weighted just due to the amount of risk and uncertainty. I mean, Trump is it's like how I don't know. It's kind of beyond words. Much uncertainty and risk there is, in my opinion, right now. And I just point out too another thing driving markets mechanically. You have hedge funds got very they were selling quite a lot of stocks a couple days ago. And usually when you get that can be that kind of capitulation that Simon was referring to earlier. And you have to remember, if you're a fund manager and you're running money for people professionally, go back to April 2025, Liberation Day, right? Stock market was crashing. I would argue, way worse than what we've seen so far. And people sold, right? Fund managers got rid of a lot of their equity holdings, might have even gotten short, betting that the market would decline. And then what happened? Trump came out and he tacoed. And in a single day, the S&P 500 rose like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10%. If you run money for a living, you literally cannot afford to miss that. And so what that created is almost kind of like a trauma a response, psychologically, where fund managers, are going to be wary of getting rid of, risk, whether that be Nvidia, Microsoft, S&P 500, whatever, right? They're going to be wary of going to cash and missing a 9-10% move in a single day just because Trump, changes his mind about something. It's very, very difficult for them because they are held to benchmarks, right? And if they underperform that benchmark, they might even go out of business, right? So I think that's kind of another dynamic when it comes to when you see these, huge moves, 3% in a day and that kind of thing. That feels to me very Chase kind of thing, FOMO, where fund managers might have started to chase, and that's generally not a good sign, right? Long term, medium to long term. And I would just point out, I was looking at the dealer gamma exposure earlier today, and if we do get a move lower, we could get some of that kind of negative. There's a lot of negative gamma below on the S&P 500. So you could get that amplification that I was kind of describing earlier. There's not much positive gamma here. And so, I would just, just try to make your overall view, right, is probably the best approach for the average person. Try to step back, look at everything objectively. Cash right now is 3.3%. So, you're not getting nothing. And in my opinion, given the totality of not only what's going on in the Middle East, but then you start to look at private credit, AI. I think that we're kind of late cycle in the business cycle and probably towards the end of the credit cycle. So, you look at all that, and to me, for the next couple months, I'm more than happy to be in cash at 3.3. Obviously, I'm a Bitcoiner. You don't generally want to be in cash for longer than you have to, but when risk is really, really high, and you have the potential for a COVID level disruption to supply chains and to aggregate demand, I think that it's probably the prudent decision, in my opinion, for me.
Appreciate that, Robert. And just from this tonight, Trump's going to be making a big announcement. There's 3 ways this announcement's can go, Robert. The first way is it could be he's just test the water and doesn't really say anything. One is he's going to do boots on the ground. The other one is he's going to retreat. What do you think? How will the market react to all 3 of those scenarios?
I mean, if you get like a full taco, I think markets probably rip higher. Probably, if I had to guess, 2, 3, 4% in a very short time frame, right? Like a day, you probably get a pretty huge move. If it's boots on the ground, I think you get, a very sharp move to the downside. I mean, and given, if you think about it the opposite, right? If you're a fund manager and you're worried about missing the rally, right? Oh no, I sold, my stocks, and I might have even gotten short, you know, and I see the S&P 500 ripping higher, I can't miss the next rally, right? Because coming out of Liberation Day was huge move, you know, huge move, and it happened very quickly. You know, I don't want to miss that again. I can't afford to miss that. So they're FOMOing in maybe yesterday, today. Well, what happens when when you FOMO in? You know, SPY's at, I don't know, 655. You FOMO in at 655, and then he comes out and announces, yeah, so as I speak, boots are on the ground, right? We're taking Carg Island or whatever it is, and the S&P 500 pukes. Well, you just got long and you were chasing, right? And you got long at 655, so you're already you're down, you know, 1-2%, and now you panic, right? Oh, I FOMO'd in at the top, and the thing is dumping now, right? So you have to remember kind of the human emotion side of traders, capital allocators, that kind of thing, you know, and try to kind of play out how you would react. You know, if you got long just today or yesterday or whatever, thinking, oh, that was the bottom, you know, he's gonna talk, oh, it's all gonna be over, and then all of a sudden, you know, he comes out and it's a huge escalation, and you just got long, and the thing is already moving against you. You're gonna probably dump pretty quickly, and like I was mentioning before, dealer net gamma is not looking very good below us. So you could get an amplification from the dealers. And yeah, I think in general, like if I had to give a prediction, it's really hard because it comes down to a geopolitical analysis, which is not what I'm good at. But if I had to make kind of a general call, it's probably that a month or two from now, the S&P 500 is lower, not higher.
And Simon. Oh, Simon, are you there?
Yeah, I just lost. I came back up. I lost my co-host, but yeah.
Oh, okay, I've sent it to you. Sorry, I'm trying to sort my internet out because I think that issue what we were having, I think it was me rather than you, Simon, because you've not had any other issues, right?
No, it was all good. I could see you, and then yeah, I think it was on your side.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to sort that out at the
All
same
right,
time.
we'll take over for a
Yeah,
bit.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you know, look, there's a reason why I don't trade. Because I think in the short term, like I think it's just a loser's game. And like when I worked as a market maker in the London Stock Exchange, I just fundamentally know how it's structured. Like we would receive orders from Goldman Sachs, and then you know back then you had like magazines rather than like Investors Chronicled and stuff, and they would manipulate the media, and then the institution would be selling into the news. And then it also depends on time frame. Now you've got the algorithmic trading element to it. You're trading against bots. Then you've got the manipulation side of it. Um, to me, the only great equalizer is investing, dollar cost averaging, taking longer term opinions. But I do think we are in just as a general macro thing, just because your entire history we were in the US empire and the market always went to new all time highs, no matter what the disaster is. And anytime anyone says this time is different, historically, you just have to ignore that. But I am going to say that we are in a change of global order. And a lot of people would be looking at what are neutral assets and what are not, can we really rely on the US money printing continues and the US stock market continues to reach new all-time highs after every disaster? Maybe. But I'm not sure if everyone's going to be confident in that when we're actually getting these major structural shifts. And I would put the argument out there that the outcome of this war is most likely to be decisive, and the decisive outcome of it has ginormous implications in the entire world, the global economy. This is not just Iran and US in a war. This is the next world order.
Are we
Yeah,
returning
Simon,
to?
like,
Yeah,
oh,
go on,
sorry.
Robert.
I get a lag in spaces, so I'm sorry, but coming out of .com, right? I like historical parallels and what history can kind of teach us, right? Not as a final. This is definitely going to repeat exactly like this, but just to kind of color your view. Coming out of .com, number one, .com was created due to the fact that the U.S. stopped running huge deficits. That was in part the reason for the equity market bubble was we weren't running a huge deficit, right? So we were not creating every year, right? The deficit just refers to how much new debt are we issuing. Back then, we were running a budget surplus. So we were actually, the government at least, was spending less than it collected in revenue. And so there was no deficit. There was no net new creation of US treasuries for the rest of the world to buy, which I think is kind of an interesting thing that often gets left out. But that created the equity market bubble, right? The rest of the world needed long dollar exposure. One way they could get that was the US stock market, which is dollar denominated. Got the .com bubble, obviously it popped. And then for the next 10 years, right, what was .com? It was a historic misallocation of capital where the pendulum swung way too far to the kind of internet, .com stuff, right? A lot of which was complete BS. Just, think of things that are coming to mind, right? Maybe with respect to AI. So we shifted the pendulum, way to the extreme, invested in, the internet world rather than the physical world. We had a strong dollar, and then .com happened. And what happened after .com? You had a huge wave of capital repatriation where the rest of the world that had allocated into U.S. treasuries, into the U.S. stock market, took that money back home, right? And they sold the U.S. treasury, sold the stock. Now they had dollars, but they're trying to get the money back home to Japan, to France, to Great Britain. So now they have to sell the dollar. And what we got was a huge dollar bear market. And so, I think, and by the way, 9/11 was kind of mixed in there, right? And the war on terror. How much did that contribute to a sharp move lower in the dollar? I'm not sure. I think it's probably hard to quantify, but there are certainly, in my opinion, a lot of similarities to kind of the late 90s, early 2000s right now with AI. Not with the deficit, right? That point is totally different now we're running insane pro-cyclical deficits, but there are, it kind of setting up to be very similar to the early 2000s. What did really well coming out of that? Emerging markets, right? Everything other than the US. And you also had, outperformance in things like energy, which is currently wildly outperforming the broader market. You also had, mining and materials, those kinds of things. And you overlay that kind of historical parallel with what Simon's getting at with, kind of the changing global order, deglobalization, and a need to for each country to secure their own future, their own resources, their own supply chains, their own industrial base. You kind of overlay all that together. And in my opinion, I think that, over the next 10 years, you do get what Simon is referring to. You do get a weaker dollar relative to the rest of the world. You do get the rest of the world, for decades, the rest of the world used the US as kind of a piggy bank, right? They would store all their surpluses, current account surplus in US stocks, in US treasuries. And I think that we reached the peak of that. Some could even argue we reached the peak of that 15 years ago, right? Where dollar share of FX reserves started, reached a peak and then started to decline. Where foreign held US Treasury debt as a share of total government debt, gross government debt, reached a peak in 2011, 2012, right? So some would argue that this is already kind of happened, right? This is just kind of a road bump, a speed bump in that process. But that the larger trend already started, 10, 15 years ago. And then, you look at what the US is doing with Iran, the Strait of Hormuz gets shut down. You had nothing to do with it, right? If you're in Europe or Japan or wherever, right? So I think that it just kind of adds fuel to that broader, more secular trend that I think already has started, which is de-dollarization, a weaker dollar, a shift, a capital, move of capital back home to Japan, to South Korea, to Europe, wherever it may be.
Yeah, no. If you look at the markets as well around the Iran war, and obviously a day is not a trend, so we need to watch it further. But to me, it's pretty self evident that if you look at what was happening prior to the Iran war, let's call it what it is. It was an Iran, invasion attack, and it may escalate to a boots on the ground scenario. But if you look at what was happening, the trend was Liberation Day, April the 2nd, 2025. And, we had this massive realignment in all the world's relationships as a result of Liberation Day. And immediately you had this trend that accelerated, which was the weakening of the dollar relative to other currencies, despite the fact that those currencies were really shitty economies. Europe, Switzerland, Japan, Britain, but their stock markets were outperforming the S&P, and their currencies were outperforming the dollar. And that was measured in DXY. And then some people were like, well, I don't want to put my money in any of those economies. So they just were shifting everything over to gold. And so we had this ginormous move, which was a historical move that we saw this year in gold. And so the dollar was weakening against gold, weakening against silver, and weakening against foreign currencies. And structurally, the implication of that is more isolationist policy, more an export driven economy, making your exports cheaper for the rest of the world, a more, cost base that can rebuild manufacturing and become more insulated. Then the Iran war happened. And violently, those trends moved in a different direction. So the DXY went above $100 again, and it's been strengthening throughout this whole month since the escalation. And then we had these increases in interest rates on the debt, which creates which accelerates a kind of doom loop. Then we move into lowered forecasts in terms of growth. Then we had all of these different strange capital markets, like private credit markets, show stress. Then you had the seizure of foreign direct investment. Then you had stress on the bond markets, because if the UK is in crisis, what asset is it going to sell? It's going to sell US treasuries. As the US treasuries go down, the interest and the yield goes up, which accelerates the issue for the American debt situation. So everything reversed, as if we were going back to, America, world reserve currency, hyper financialized, hyper securitized. But what did we get when the market, for whatever reason, whether they're wrong or right today, believed that the war was coming to an end? Immediately, the dollar priced in foreign currencies, despite the stress in Britain and Europe and all these others, it started weakening and going below that $100 mark. What happened to gold? Gold started strengthening. And again, it's just a market day, so you can't really read much into it. But still, these are the things that I look at. And then you started to see the 10 and the 30-year and 10-year interest rates come back down again. So all of those are moving back where we were meant to go before this war, which is moving everything in the right direction. What is the implication of that? Well, it is the removal of the dollar as world reserve currency, and a transition to America as a more insulated economy. Now you add an energy price crisis, because oil hasn't really, crashed back down to any degree. The oil market is still uncertain. then you get that supply shock, which is effectively, causing these global state of emergencies, lockdowns in behaviors, and really changing consumptive behaviors, force majeure contracts, renegotiating all contracts, and all of those contracts that are renegotiated, wherever energy flows and whoever controls that energy, there is significant implications in terms of the relationship between those countries. If Europe and UK end up with an absolute dependency upon American energy, then that sets the relationship for this order. If Asia end up with a big dependency upon Russia as a result of this, and then a opening up of the Middle Eastern energy flows over the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 10 years, all of those relationships are completely reset, and the world order has completely changed, and we are discovering that all the previous crisis, whether it be long-term capital management, whether it be global financial crisis, whether it be COVID, whether it be misinterpretation of inflationary, transmission, inflation is transitory, after a Ukraine-Russia war, all of those were solved by printing more money, which accelerated wealth inequality, and made a fewer people wealthy at the expense of the vast majority of the people. What we are learning in this one, which Robert, I think, has done a great job of articulating, is that you can't necessarily fix this one with money printing if you don't have the commodities or the energy. And if you think you do have the
Yes.
commodities or energy, you'd still need the global market. So whatever happens, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, just as you get a counter trend, relief rally like we might see on a day-to-day basis, right? You get that on a week or monthly basis too, right? So you zoom out to a longer trend, you're gonna get fluctuations. And coming into this year, the kind of the quote unquote smart money was very, very short the dollar. And if you look at the DXY, it looks like, or it looked like it was going to break down out of a 20-year uptrend. And it kind of all happened perfectly. This is something that tends to happen, where right when it looks like, oh, okay, we're breaking down out of the uptrend, and it's de-dollarization, and this, everyone's super short on the dollar. Bam, you get a huge oil spike, right? And you kind of rinse some of that out. So just as that kind of thing happens on an hour to hour or day to day basis, it can happen on the bigger time frames as well. And I would just this is part of the reason because I was talking about that stuff like in 2023, way before the kind of mainstream financial world was. And part of the reason that I kind of started to get a little uncomfortable and ended up putting out the article that I did in January, February, was that everyone was getting short the dollar. Everyone was getting super bearish on the dollar. Everyone was talking about de-dollarization, debasement, trade, all the stuff that the time to talk about that and the time to trade that was 2023, 2024, 2025, right? Once everyone kind of comes around to it, and it becomes the consensus, that's usually not a good sign, right? You want to take profit if you were trading that particular theme. And so, yeah, but you zoom further out, you're going to get little road, I keep saying road bumps, speed bumps. You're going to get little counter trend moves. But I agree with Simon that I think that, coming out of this war, how could you, if you're, foreign central bank, if you're a foreign government, if you're a foreign individual, foreign business, how do you look at what's going on in the world and not want to look, even if it's just a 5, 10, 15% shift, right? From historically, you were in US stocks, US bonds. Even if you just take 5, 10% of that money and put it in your own government, right? In your own local currency bonds or gold or Bitcoin, That is a huge amount of capital. We're talking tens of trillions of dollars. If the rest of the world goes, you know what, maybe we can't rely on the U.S. government to hold its promise, which is all a U.S. Treasury bond is a promise from the U.S. government to pay you a certain amount of interest and and a certain amount of principal at a certain date. That's all it is. It's built on faith. It's built on trust. And how could you not look around the world over the past couple of years and have a little bit of question start, doubt start to seep in there.
I do want to add as well, Gary, you got a hot mic. I'll bring you in next if you like. I want to add another dimension to it. I'll just mute Gary. I want to add another dimension to it. Don't forget, the largest asset manager in the world that now manages $14 trillion of assets, BlackRock, also manages a piece of software called Aladdin, which is the most sophisticated access to data and intelligence and artificial intelligence, or actually real intelligence. Now, of that on that technology, the central banks and asset managers that are managing the largest pools of capital in the world, sovereign wealth funds, they're using Aladdin. It's got $25 trillion of capital that people use for their intelligence when managing. And it tells you where to allocate capital in order to plan for different scenarios. And so if you were planning, and as we said, at the same time, BlackRock manages the largest ETFs, exchange traded funds, the index, all these different things. And so if you have complete access to the largest pools of ETFs, you're managing the largest pool of capital in the world, and your technology is used by the largest pools of capital in the world, sovereign wealth funds, central bank, treasury departments, asset managers, pension fund managers, the totals 25 trillion plus 14 trillion, plus the market cap of ETFs. You're talking about a significant chunk of the world's capital. And whatever BlackRock tells you with your intelligence, believe me, there are capital allocators that will just follow that and then combine it with what Robert was saying, that you might even be using AI in order to run some of these decision making processes. BlackRock has significant ability to completely manifest these trends and for capital to follow it. And that is just the structural reality of those types of the market structure that we have right now. Gary, I think you had a hot mic, but did you want to say something as well?
It was an inadvertent hot mic. Apologies.
No worries. Do you want to chime in on anything, or I'll go to dark side?
Yeah, go somewhere else. I'm handling something.
No worries. Dark side. What are you seeing? What do you think? Is Trump going to announce the end of the war? Like, is the market to be believed? There was that big relief rally. The market seems to think this is coming to an end. What do you think, Doc?
I think he's going to try, but I don't think it works. I see there's a headline right now from an Israeli broadcaster. Israel does not believe an agreement will be reached between Iran and the U.S. I think that's right. I don't think Israel lets the U.S. get out of this. Remember, Israel requires on the U.S. tankers to be able to strike Iran. So in some ways, you leave Israel as a sitting duck if you pull out. I guess I'm not a military guy, but that just seems like common sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. If you're to believe Trump, Trump is effectively saying there's no more nuclear program or nuclear threat by Iran, which we know is just the narrative story. But more importantly, he's saying that they've decimated the missile program. I think intelligence has said, or US intelligence, which is equally not to be believed, but they're saying 33% of missiles are effectively unable to be launched, according to or what we're hearing in the press, which we can't believe any of it. And and then Trump is saying that we could just leave, the strait doesn't need to be closed, we can just leave the war. What effectively you're saying is the economic nuclear bomb is still a reality. And effectively, Iran can launch nuclear missiles on Israel. They can fire the drones. The interceptors don't seem to have any type of defense against that. So effectively, if Trump is to be believed on what he is saying right now, and he confirms it tonight, and that is not true, then yeah, Israel can effectively be absolutely decimated by Iran. And so the natural conclusion is that this is just a fake out market relief. And whatever he says tonight could really move all of these corrections in the market and the hopium in the market in the opposite direction. And if he does say anything tonight, it can only be believed if we actually get the opening of Hormuz or a confirmation from Iran that there is a plan and there is a roadmap to open the strait. Anything other than that is just BS market manipulation, and you could be on the wrong side of that manipulation. But you have to actually solve the problems. You can't just say you have solved the problems. And then we've got the fallout from the reality of the supply chains and the state of emergencies around the world. And even if you open it today, how long does it take? Then you got the fallout of the rebuild of all the infrastructure and logistics. Then we go back to normal. But what does normal look like? Do you think the world just says, yeah, let's go back to a US dominated world and dollarization? No, everything gets renegotiated, new contracts are set, and the world starts to answer, how do we make sure this never happens to us again? If they are autonomous governments, and if they're not autonomous governments, then they just become a tool for their controllers, and you end up with continued decline of the countries that are not actually answerable to their people, which I think is the entire collective West, personally.
Yeah. So look, I expect tonight to be more about NATO than the war itself. I think he'll say something along the lines of, 2 to 3 more weeks and we'll be out of there. But ultimately, NATO has to open the strait because NATO needs the oil. That's where I think he goes with this, and I think the focus of this is not on the war but on NATO, which is interesting because I don't think NATO can open the strait. And I don't think 2 to 3 weeks of continued bombing gets the job done. That being said, I did spend an hour very painfully last night watching Fox News's main show, and it was the most one-sided propaganda I have ever witnessed. I mean, given that I spent enough time in here and enough time on X to know that this is really a fight, right? Like that the from Iran's perspective, they just need to keep the strait closed, and they win. And man, the picture that was painted by that primetime show was over the top. This is over. We've wiped them all out. They're completely on their back foot. They can't fire missiles anymore. I mean, it's just like one thing after the next, one lie after the next. So, the American people are being propagandized to such a degree that you can just feel like something's coming along the lines of, we won, we're out of here, NATO, you handle it. And of course, nothing changes the calculus that Iran just needs to keep the strait closed and the world goes into chaos.
Well, there's nothing keeping Iran from signing a ceasefire or agreeing to any of this nonsense. I mean, Trump pulls out, says, "Hey, NATO, it's your turn." Number one, NATO can't affect the opening of the strait. Period. End of story. That's not going to happen. If Trump pulls out or announces a pullout, and Iran continues on its bombing of Tel Aviv and the GCC countries to further the decline of the petrodollar, which is in their interest, in Russia's interest, in China's interest, there's nothing stopping Iran from continuing what they're doing right now. which has been consistent with their maintaining that they are not negotiating this. They are not going to agree to a ceasefire because that allows Israel and America to just rearm themselves and try again. There has to be some sort of permanent solution to the question of Israel's desire to expand their country into Iran and the Levant. And until and unless that happens, I don't see why Iran would go along and give Trump this exit strategy, allowing him to propagandize his own people and have him come out a winner. I just don't see it. And Sully and I and others had talked about Iran had been too soft in their response. They basically did a quid pro quo. If they were attacked, they attacked in kind, but they didn't prosecute the war aggressively enough to end it and achieve what it is they've previously said are their real goals, which is basically a permanent peace between Israel and Iran, some compensation for the losses, and I would hope some sort of a permanent solution for the Palestinian question in Israel. I don't see it that there's a political will in Israel to do any of that, and I think Trump is probably weighing the risk of continuing the economic devastation and the political devastation, more than anything, that political devastation that's come with this attack. I think that the Epstein files are going to come back into the forefront because I think Bibi and Israel cannot afford to have the U.S. pull out. We've seen that demonstrated over the last few weeks, where every time America seemed to sort of want to pull back, Israel went ahead and attacked again and draw us back in, which is what Marco Rubio on the second or third day of the war said was the reason the U.S. jumped in was because Israel was going to go ahead and attack. So this is not a settled situation, irrespective of what Trump might say tonight. Period. End story.
Thanks for that, Doc. Doc, I think you bring up a pretty accurate point that if the speech is just focused on NATO, then really he could just come out and say, right, we're easing our involvement in the operations. It's not our problem. NATO, you go fix this problem. The strait is still closed. America, we're fine. We've got all of our energy. Everyone come buy it from us. You can imagine you can imagine the kind of like Q narrative that makes people think this is going to be fine. We're great. Trump, you got us our Venezuelan oil. Now you're going to force NATO to go get the strait open. We're MAGA. We're in charge. Let's say he says that. We know that doesn't really solve anything. So what do you think the market reaction to such a speech would be? I'd imagine this would just be a whiplash from the relief rally.
I think the relief rally will continue because I think that what we've seen, Simon, is that the government, through its various tentacles into our economy, can control it, can move the market almost at will. But what happens to the market if, in effect, Trump backs out and pulls America out, leaves NATO and Israel to basically fend for themselves, and the Straits, and Iran, which I'm assuming they're going to do no matter what, is going to say, okay, you're going to have to pay a transit tax. Every country is going to have to pay a transit tax the way that Egypt does in the Suez Canal. And that's just going to further the decline of the petrodollar. So, and increase the rush toward BRICS. This is not over. And Trump is in a horrible fucking position. I think he needs to have a mea culpa moment. I don't expect it. I think he needs to fire Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and those who pressured Susan Wilkes as chief of staff. These people all have to go, and Trump has to come with some humility, both to the Iranians and the Iranian people, but also to the Saudi crown prince, the insult that he gave to one of his biggest allies in the world, actually. it was quite stunning to me. So it's been a complete mess. I don't think he can, narcissistically push his way through that and declare victory. But I can tell you, I have a lot of conservative followers, and when I posted a little while ago that Trump, that we've lost this war, and that's what this speech is about. That's what the most recent rhetoric tells me. And they're like, we haven't lost the war. We've totally won the war. So it was a dark side. It was saying, watching Fox News, yeah, that he's still got 30 to 40% of the American population who will believe this nonsense. And if Iran and Israel let us get away with withdrawing, with declaring victory, that might work. But I don't expect that either Israel or Iran are going to go along with this and say, oh yeah, we achieved our objectives. I mean, I just inconceivable to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
that.
pulling the threads together as well. We did see this. Trump came out and said, very derogatory comments towards Saudi MBS, around "kiss my ass." Then the reaction to that, whether it's theatrical or not, it's still optics. The reaction was that Saudi went and signed an agreement with Ukraine. Um, Now, the significance of that is obviously the warfare tactics that Iran has used were from, the effectively understanding how the Ukraine-Russian war worked out in terms of missiles and drones. And so Zelensky came out basically leading up to this saying, I can help the Gulf countries. Trump did the kiss my ass comment. Saudi then signed a defense agreement with Ukraine. That has implications in terms of the optics with Russia. Now, the implication of that is that effectively NATO has been, NATO and America have been responsible for a lot of the infrastructure in the Ukraine side. So a lot of that intelligence from NATO goes to, via Ukraine. And Marco Rubio came out, and whether you believe or not, again, just because people do things, it doesn't mean it's true. It can just be optics. But Marco Rubio came out and said how upset he was that that all happened behind their back, and that Saudi signed something in Ukraine without speaking to US. Now, all of that could be BS, but that's the optics of what's being presented as a result of this loop. So now, if we enter into a speech that's focused on NATO, then again, we're starting to see a narrative being formed, and NATO is effectively funding the Russia-Ukraine war into continuation. The military-industrial complex benefiting from that. Trump getting sign off on $200 billion of military budget. Then the Gulf countries having their own types of agreement, one via NATO, the other via the Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt type of defense pact. And then whatever the implications are on BRICS there, because Saudi is an observer member of BRICS, but Iran is a full member, as is Egypt, as is UAE. But they all have their, the different degrees of their US relationship. But Pakistan right now is hosting the alleged peace talks, which is meant to be, brokered via China's plan. And China's plan basically had a return to how to open the strait. So to me, the fabrics of what the end deal looks like is being formed. And
You know,
yeah,
if I could, I give no credence to the potential threat of Ukraine helping out anybody. They're a paper tiger. The only assistance they could render is the assistance they get via proxy from America. Our weapons, our money, our intelligence, our support for the plan, really, of NATO's plan to push into Russia. I don't think that means anything. And in the weeks until this agreement between Saudi and Ukraine, everyone was ignoring Zelensky and his entreaties to come to the Gulf and to assist. I think that's complete nonsense. I think that if a deal was signed with Ukraine slash NATO by MBS, it was basically a fuck you to Trump for the comments that Trump made. I don't see that as long lasting policy. I don't see the synergies, other than the fact that Saudi Arabia has got to be questioning their commitment to the petrodollar and looking toward Russia and China as potential allies in the Gulf, either economically or militarily, because clearly America has overstated its ability to protect not only Saudi Arabia but the Gulf countries. I think there's been massive miscalculations by everyone involved in this as to what the results of military intervention would be. I think Trump wildly overestimated it. Clearly, I think Bibi either wildly overestimated it or was so desperate enough that he thought this was the last moment in which he could compel the American president and the American people to fight another war on his behalf. So there's going to be a complete reset, and I don't think anybody really knows what the next steps are going to be. But I do think the nuclear threat has been taken off the table largely. I'm not as concerned about that any longer, particularly since China came out, at least through one spokesman, and said, paraphrasing, if Israel uses a nuclear weapon, they will not have a country any longer. So we'll see.
Yeah. Dark side, what do you reckon the market reaction would be if Trump says what you think he's going to say? We won. The strait ain't open. But NATO's, you go solve it. What do you think the market would say about that?
I think we're going higher no matter what he says. I just think that everything's so washed out. You got a lot of shorts in the market. There's negative gamma to the upside, as Robert was talking about earlier. So yeah, I just think we see a relief rally. You got to remember, bear market rallies, these type of rallies inside of negative sentiment markets can be very violent. And Robert, laid out the case for FOMO back to the upside. But of course, a week and a half, 2 weeks from now, then that's where the rubber meets the road. And look, I think no matter what Trump says, and I really do expect him to say 2 to 3 weeks, we're out of here, NATO, deal with it yourself. But the problem is that puts you into false flag land, right? Israel cannot have us leave. If we leave, they're in big trouble. So I just think, maybe a lull in the kind of action here. We get a nice relief rally. Everybody gets back in, and then here we go again.
Do you think the false flags would be in the Middle East, or do you think they'd be domestic to try and rally support by Americans to not? What do you reckon the false flag would try and achieve?
That's above my pay grade. I just think there'll be something that creates escalation. Certainly, that calculus of doing something domestically to rally American support, that's on the table, but that's more dangerous. Um, I honestly I don't know, Simon. I just think that with the escalation ladder has not stopped going higher, and I think it just continues to go higher.
Yeah, got you. Um, Gary, I don't know if you're there. There was
Yeah, I'm here.
there was a moment when you were on the space. Everything's fading into one, so I can't remember when it was. It was some point last week when there was explosions in some kind of infrastructure in Texas. Did that ever become anything? Was that serious or?
No, it kind of went quiet. It was offline for a while. I haven't seen any news on it. It's the Valero refining station. I could do some research on it, see if it's
What's the
up.
significance of that location? Is it significant? Or
Oh, oh yeah, dude. It's. I grew up 90 miles from there. That's refining row. I mean, basically between Houston, Texas, and the western side of Louisiana. So the other side, most people think of New Orleans. This is the most western side of Louisiana, near Texas, Beaumont, Sulphur, places like that. That whole corridor for 90 miles, maybe not mine 90, but maybe for 40 or 50 miles. It's just the largest LNG plant in the United States is in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And then you have refiners, you have shipping, all the energy shipping goes to the Gulf, that whole area. So Valero would be, that'd put a lot of stress. I have not seen any news on it, or why that explosion happened. They never really came out and said anything. Hey, let me just switch gears. What would happen, guys, if tonight? I don't know if has Trump said what he's talking about. It's just he's basically got all the news stations in the world to turn them on. What if he does something different, like does this expose on aliens that they keep kind of throwing out there? I keep thinking they're going to change the narrative. You notice how we keep switching from story to story, so we don't really we don't ever have time to actually focus in on Ukraine. They actually then start another one. I think that's what I would do right now, because I don't know what he can say. What's Trump going to come? Hey, we're leaving NATO, which we should have done a long time ago. NATO is part of the problem. We're not going to have war. And there's going to be more questions if he says that. And you got to get all the participants to agree. So I just would be, I think this is going to be either a nothing burger or let's add some more fuel to the fire and talk about a new drama.
Do you think he could
We're
just
being
literally
we're
give?
being managed.
Do you think he?
We're being managed with too much information, dude. I think we're being overwhelmed with drama news, and it's hard to make decisions in that environment.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance he just literally does like a normal campaign rally speech about how amazing everything is?
Bro, who knows? It's the last thing we need right now, though, is another rah-rah. I don't know. I'm probably useless on these spaces right now because I'm not a big drama queen. I'm not going to just say stuff to get followers. I don't have any clue what's going on. That's where I'm at today, man. I just, no idea.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Gary.
Sorry, but if other people feel that way, no, you're not alone. This is pretty weird.
No, there's no point in saying something if you don't think it adds value to the conversation. And just saying, "Hey, we're in uncharted territory," I think is value in itself. So, I really appreciate that. Your hand up. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I was yesterday I was kind of suggesting that I think, and I've been talking about how the change in the narrative has shifted from, even Lindsey Graham. Netanyahu came out yesterday. Did you guys see that? Netanyahu came out yesterday and said Iran is no longer a threat. I honestly almost in my head almost exploded when I read that headline. I had to double check it to make sure I thought it was fake news. But I think I'm pretty confident. Obviously, you never know. Like Gary said, I don't know. We are speculating, but based on the way the signs are looking, I think Trump's going to say we won, even though we all know we didn't win. It was a colossal failure, and the whole energy market is up in the air. But I think he is going to try to create an off ramp. The wild card is whether or not Iran, because Iran is in the driver's seat now. So, but I think Trump is going to telegraph that he's looking to get out. Now, another thing I wanted to point out that I don't think I'm hearing a lot, but I heard it on an Andrew Napolitano show this morning, is according to the War Powers Act, I believe, and somebody else can correct me if they have more of a legal background or a constitutional law background, but Trump only has like 30 more days of military action that he can do on his own without congressional authority. And so that, I think, does speak to why they keep saying 2 to 3 weeks, because that's what they have. They maybe 4 at most, before they would have to go to Congress. And if they go to Congress, who knows what will happen? I don't think it would pass, depending on what they do. And that kind of speaks to what Darkside is saying, which is, I fully think that if the Trump administration could get people on board for the war, they would double down. But I think they know that they can't. And if they double down, it will make the situation worse. And do I think they're going to do anything with the 2,500 to 10,000 soldiers that are there? I think it's a hard maybe. I think it's unlikely. I think they're there to mostly, I don't want to say pretend, but to try to, in their mind, I think it gives them more negotiating leverage, whether it does or not. I don't know. Maybe they'll do something crazy like the Carg Island thing they've been floating out there, but they don't have the forces there to do like an all-out ground invasion. They need 500,000 troops at least, right? And that would probably take what, 6 months to a year to get all that ready. I mean, and they
Yeah,
don't have the will of the people,
yeah, and uncommon.
so
Yeah,
they have to do something. Go ahead.
Yeah, in common, I'm going to jump in with you there, buddy. I'm glad you're seeing that. And we don't, not only do we not have the force there, and I'm going to say this very slowly and carefully, we have not ever from the beginning had, past tense, the force there. Neither numbers of ships, neither logistic support, neither the will, I'm talking logistic support for naval, surface, naval, air, ground, Army, U.S. Army, amphibious forward push. Nothing has been there. And for now, several times I've stated, I'm not talking out of my ass here. I was literally in Persian Gulf 1. I was at the Pentagon as a watch officer. The surge just for Iraq alone was vastly beyond what we have there now. Vastly beyond. And just the logistics alone. So it's never been there. And so you're absolutely correct. So it's just a feint. And I think will be just a big feint, F-A-I-T. And they're just going to do it. And Trump's going to back out. He's moonwalking his way back out of this. And one thing Sully has said, if they do a ground support invasion, it would be the Carg Island thing. That would be the only, Sully's looked at this politically, geopolitically, and through his military experience and through his interviews, that would be the only option to get there and try to play high stakes poker on Carg Island. But even then, and Sully and all of them have said, then what? I don't think it'll happen. And then I'm going to land it with this. I wish folks would really seriously take a hard look at the Paris Peace Accords in 1971 through 73. I know we have to constrict the timeline, but Nixon kept saying we're going to bomb them, we're winning. The Vietnamese, we brought Vietnam to its knees. Lie, lies, and more lies. And the only mainstream media, we only had Walter Cronkite in the news, but it started to leak out when the bodies started piling up. But here's the thing. Kissinger cut the deal. China is now a player. Now, it's been since in the 70s. We're going back, 50 years ago. China was a player. And now China is brokering this with Pakistan. And Simon has gotten beat up so much on the deal. Yes, there is a deal. The deal's being worked. And of course, Vietnam kept saying the same thing. There's no deal. Nixon's a liar. Your country's lying to us. But there is deals being worked out. And yes, United States has lost. I use the present perfect tense. If you study has lost, and you can research that grammatically speaking from the English language, that means the lost already happened. We've already lost past tense. And that means everyone is now realizing it. And we're going to walk out of this as winners. We won. America's great. We won. Yes, we won. And that's going to be, I think, the speech. I agree with the speaker panel and Doc and all of you weighing in so heavily on this. NATO, look, you deal with this. We're tired of being screwed. Europe deal with this. We don't need this. We're out of here. Bye. But Iran's going to be running the show with the GCC. And also China's going to be pushing all the buttons. It's Russia, China, and the U.S. United States will go to a regional war. We're now in a global, complete global a world here now where we're no longer the hegemony of the entire world, which I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I just want to add that what you said about the NATO thing is super important. Why is Trump, going around and saying, "Oh, NATO's not protecting us" or whatever? He's looking for somebody to blame. He's looking for someone to say the reason the strait isn't open isn't because we could open it. He's looking to say, well, this doesn't really affect us. Europe, you deal with it. Now, effectively, it's going to push. It already is pushing Europe away from us. It is probably a good thing because obviously, unfortunately, the U.S. dominating all these world politics as basically a cutout for Israel for 50 years has not been good for America and the world, actually. But yeah, it's resetting the world order. And I don't think he would be saying those things about NATO if he wasn't looking for an off ramp. Like, why would you also throw that in there? He's looking for an off ramp. He's looking for someone to blame. He's going to declare victory. I just think that now the wild card is, what is Iran going to do? Now, I'm more optimistic than maybe some of the other people, because I just think Iran's a pretty rational actor, honestly. If you look at now I get that they have more hardliners in there now, but if you just look at what Iran has done historically, it's always been pretty rational and straightforward. And I don't think they want total war. I think they're prepared for total war. But I think if the United States does leave the area, leaves off the sanctions, and who knows, I think Iran will actually be pretty favorable, I guess. And I don't think their demands are that crazy. They seem crazy at first, but they don't seem crazy when you look at the situation. I don't know. Maybe I'm more optimistic. Now, the other thing I will say about this, though, let's say Trump comes out and he says, all right, we're looking to get out of this war. We've accomplished our goals. We want to get out. And Iran just keeps bombing for the next 2 weeks. And the United States stops bombing. Because Iran has the high ground right now, I think, in the world view. But I think they have to be careful of taking it too far. And so far they haven't. They've done everything tit for tat. They've done everything super measured. And I don't think they're going to go crazy with it, is what I'm saying. Like, even though they do have the cards, I don't think they're going to, because they don't want to go to a total war situation either. What they want is to be respected. Maybe they'll charge a fee for the Strait. I don't know. I mean, the world order is going to shift. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic about it, but I just think that something is going to happen and a deal will be made. And I think the United States, at this point, and I've only been saying that for the last 48 hours, but I'm just watching how the rhetoric is shifting drastically and how it looks like the politicians are scrambling. But I do agree with Darkside. That doesn't mean that they won't continue to try to push this in this war. If they had the will of the people, they would go total war, but they don't have it. And if they could get backing from Europe, they would do a joint crazy operation probably for the Strait of Hormuz, but they don't have it. So they're just realizing what they have.
Well, even after the Paris Peace Accords, North Vietnam kept killing thousands of South Vietnamese and American sympathizers, even though the U.S. said, stop. This killing kept on going, and they kept pushing. Vietnam kept pushing, surging further south, taking even enclaves that the United States would hope to have. So what I'm saying is Iran will continue doing its thing, even after the U.S., I believe, backs out. But they know the limit, and that'll reach its equilibrium here as we move further into this this polyglobal new world order.
Multipolar.
Thank you, Simon. There to the rescue.
You put a lot of hours in, Andrew. You've been on these spaces, I think, an average of 20 hours a day. Like, it's incredible what you put in.
Sir,
So
I keep learning.
our brains are definitely all frazzled.
You, sir. Thank you, sir. Simon, look, you and Doc and all this, you're professionals that are working tireless hours in your profession. Like, here's Doc on vacation holiday, still jumping in. And then Simon, I know you got you have your Bitcoin and all of your financial spaces going, but yet all of us are sacrificing. But me, I mean, nothing compared to you.
I'm retired, brother. So I'm almost retired.
Well, you're retired, but you're still working. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, retired doesn't mean you stop working.
Right. Exactly.
I want to pose a question for the panel or anybody who wants to answer, just to get y'all's respected opinions. But let's imagine the United States does just back away and get out, and even if they leave Israel high and dry, do you think Iran would destroy Israel? I don't think they would. I think that they would exact damage, maybe a lot of damage, but I don't think they would absolutely destroy it.
No, Simon's gone over that so many hundreds of times. I don't know how long you've been listening to Simon's stuff, but no, and Simon's gone over that, and he's gotten a tremendous amount of pushback on that. In fact, even there for a while, I'm like, whoa, Simon, wait a minute. Please put down your anime book or something. Are you reading? No, this is real world, Simon. But no, I'm starting to see it shape out very clearly here for myself personally. But no, Israel will serve its purpose, and it'll be put in this little box. And people, I know this does not match at all. This does not match the Pax Judaica. Pax Judaica is very active. We understand that, but that's still going to work within its little box. Everyone's going to have a position to play. And I won't go back into that because Simon is the financial expert, these financial economic experts, but it's all based on money, M-O-N-E-Y, the currency wars. When I read the book, The Currency Wars, that's what really opened my eyes to this. But these financial experts, these economic experts like Robert, Simon, Darkside, they come in, and Gary lends his knowledge in here. These are the big power players. They work the markets. They not only the markets, but the macroeconomics. And this is what's moving it. And that's what controls the world, actually. Everything moves on that. So I'll land. I'm not going to get out of my area of expertise.
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe that what we're witnessing was part of the negotiation. I've got a more extreme view than most people, but yeah, I maintain that there is a deal, and what we're witnessing is the execution of that deal, which is who needs to go, who needs to stay, what needs to be destroyed, what infrastructure needs to be renegotiated. What does the world look like after this? And I believe it started a long time ago, and this has been This is the final act in the execution of a faction of powers plan, and there is the final resistance against that plan, and but nothing stops the train in terms of the unification of Chinese powers, transnational capital, the pragmatist side of Iran, the integration of proxies into state armies, the removal of US from the region, and a normalization agreement that's propped up by China and BRICS, and the shrinking of America into a regional power, and the subjugation of Europe to be a vassal of the corporate power that controls the West, which is the financial companies, the military companies, and the technology companies, and our governments work for them. And obviously, there's lobby power, and there's colonies around the world that service certain power. And Israel historically has been aligned with the military-industrial complex faction of power. But now there are unuseful narratives in the world that don't serve financial powers. And one of those is Zionism and the Greater Israel Project as a destabilizing force in the Middle East. The death to America, death to Israel narrative, which effectively created strategic tension that led to the justification for trillions of dollars of money printing and complete chaos in the Middle East. And the neocon narrative that we're already starting to see even Lindsey Graham pivot from, with people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, Joe Kent, kind of de-radicalizing the evangelical Christians. And then if these kilters go off plan or off trend, then civil unrest means that the technology companies implement their police and surveillance state, which they want to. And I think the global reset is upon us. And I think we're witnessing the shedding of old factions of power, with a plan that was hedged for all outcomes in case things go wrong by financial powers. And remember, when financial powers reset maps, they have access to deep state, they have access to military, they're able to control capital in order to escalate. And then when things go wrong, they hedge markets and they bet on both sides of the outcome. and so they manage their portfolios accordingly. And I think you're witnessing that in the markets right now. But maybe we should check in with Suleiman or Beatrix, see if there's any updated news.
Yeah, let's go through it. Appreciate it, Simon. Appreciate you covering. I was trying to sort out the internet and some of the new channel. So let me
Do you
quickly
think
give
do you
you
think
some
your
news.
internet was hosted in Dubai?
It could be because it's a cheap internet, so I'm presuming it could be. They were like, listen, let's send this to the colleges. And then what? No, probably not Dubai. Yeah, either UAE or the Bahrain. Because I believe Amazon got hit right in Bahrain. So it could be that I am back in the UK. So already the UK is suffering. You're all going to war, and the poor old guy from the ends is suffering from your warmongering. He can't even keep his internet going. But
It must be that all power Qatari lobby, right?
it is the Qatari lobby that definitely wanted this war to happen. Just some breaking news. As per what he said, Israel is currently facing the largest continuous Iranian attack in 3 weeks, as they've been pummeled for the last 24 hours, if not longer. Initial reports of a Hezbollah missile also impacting Ashdod. EGA, that's the Emirates Global Aluminium Al Tawila facility, has basically halted all production. They're the largest producers of aluminium. They're located in Abu Dhabi's Haifa Economic Zone. They are now non-operational. Russia says any attempt to take control of the Strait of Hormuz from Iran won't work. He said, quote, "This is the objective reality. Even the United States of America cannot challenge." What else we got? We got Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. He said, "I emphatically declare that the consistent policy of Iran, following the path of the Imam Khamenei and the Mali, is to continuously support the resistance against the Zionist and US enemies." So he's come out 2 hours ago, Simon, saying that they will always support the resistance, and this is today. I know your view is that the resistance groups are going to be discarded, but Ayatollah Khamenei has come out and said it will be discarded. What else have we got? We have some more news. And there are 5 million. Oh, wait, I pressed the wrong button there. Sorry, guys. Okay. Pressed YouTube and Piers Morgan came on. Not a great sight unless you're Beatrix. Iranian missiles continue to target the UAE. Where's Beatrix? Everyone's saying the chat. Everyone's saying the space is just exponentially better. Isn't it, that girl? Also we have clashes erupting in Nablus and a massive. Okay, we got a massive demonstration today in Hama in Syria condemning the Israeli occupation, is approval of the law to execute Palestinian prisoners. So that's the latest, guys. We do need to retweet the space. Yeah. Oh, Beatrix turned up. Whoa, you mentioned her name and it's like Chucky. It just turns up. But another thing, guys, we've got a tweet in the nest. It is the new YouTube channel. So this is what the plan is going to be, just so you're aware. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be streaming the space on our normal YouTube channel, the one that we've been using throughout, and we're still going to be using that. We're going to be giving live updates on that channel as well. But what will happen is on the other YouTube channel, the Bridge the Gap channel, with any interviews we have, the live videos, we'll be doing from there. So the live video interviews will be on there, and any snippets from the video interviews will be on there as well. So the tweet is in the YouTube comments, and you can see the tag in there. Click on it and follow and subscribe to that channel. It's a kind of like a brand new channel. I think I only ever uploaded one thing, which was a Ryan Dawson 9/11 interview, which YouTube straight away flagged, so I had to completely remove it. But that's the only thing that's ever been. So it's a new channel. I've already scheduled 3 interviews. You can see them on there. You've got, it looks pretty cool actually, looking at it. We've got the Trita Pass. Simon, you need to be a bit organized now. You can't be like Sulaiman. Let's do the, well, you can still do that, obviously, and we'll just do it. But if you're organized, Simon, you could be like Sulaiman. Guess what? You've got 1 hour's notice, more than 1 hour's notice. We're going to do an interview on a market update, and I can literally put your one on there as well and have your pretty face on one of those posters, as we've got Trita Parsi, Anthony Aguilar, and Ryan Dawson on there.
Oh, man, I'm like these millennials now. Like you're asking me to subscribe to a new channel,
Yeah.
and you're asking me to give you more than 1 hour notice to
Bleh.
an interview.
Exactly.
This is
You've
so
got to stop being a
hard.
millennial.
This is like the millennials.
But you're like, Simon, let's not pretend. It's not the millennials. You're like the guy on the ranch, and we're like the ranch workers. And you're like, hey, my boy, we're doing an interview now, boy. And I'm like, oh, but can I have, no, right now, boy? And I'm like, okay, sir, let me quickly set up the interview. But yeah, so I feel like, I had better jokes than that, but I'm trying to make sure I've got a very left-wing audience now, so I've got to be very sensitive. I've got to be very sensitive to my left-wing audience. Actually, I can't be sensitive, guys. If you're following me, I'm not sensitive. It's like I'm on a plantation and you're like, boy, we're starting this YouTube stream now. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. But anyway, jokes aside. Guys, follow the new YouTube channel. What's the situation on it? We've got 117 people who followed it. The tweet is in the YouTube comment. Why is it? I put a poll to say, have you followed it? And 40% of people said no. Don't just click no. Go and follow it, you dogs. That's like a kind of inspiration to make you follow it. And it's in the nest as well.
No,
Bronze.
Sully, I'm like, what are you talking? They posted no, so what? Good God, it's half. Come on,
Boys,
people.
Come on. Listen, why are you helping the Zios? Elon Musk is coming after us. He's taken us away from he's taken the blue check mark away. Not the blue, he obviously took the blue check mark a year and a half ago. But he's taken us off the purple thing. What's it called again? The ticker, the purple thing. So no one sees our spaces. The only people who can see our spaces now is you guys, because you've got your notifications on, or you're checking me, or you see Simon joining, or you see Gary or Beatrix or Darkside or that girl, or Uncommon or Andrew or Resistance joining. But other than that, you're not getting the notifications, and you're not seeing us on the blue ticker. They've done this on purpose because they know as soon as big news kicks off, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10,000 people join this space. I really believe ground invasion is coming. This is another, for me, proof that there is something that they want to hide. If there was going to be a deal, they wouldn't do something like this. They're coming after us. They're coming after us hard. So we need your support. We need your support in the YouTube channel. We need your support on the space. And we can only do this with that. We're giving you the real news, real information in real time. I'm looking at these posters. They're pretty good, actually. Decent job, Blas. I just need to shift it down a bit, but then whenever you ask ChatGPT do something, it gets confused. This is why AI can never rule the world. But anyway, that's a separate point. Okay, we're going to continue. Exactly. Queen Vincent, subscribe, all you psychopaths. Well, they're not psychopaths, but yeah, everyone listen to her and subscribe. She's interesting, to say the least. She's Simon's biggest fan. So eccentric would be the most mildest way to describe that. Okay, guys, subscribe. How many people have subscribed to that channel now? 144, not bad, but you're gonna miss the interviews. There's one coming in 54 minutes. 54 minutes there's an interview coming. I don't know how to, it's not the new channel, Casey, you know about YouTube because you've got two great YouTube channels, Dargail Kersey and Asteroid. But Casey, how do I've done the redirect from this one to the other one, but it doesn't let me redirect from the other one back. Do you know what the reason for that could be?
I'm not gonna lie, this right here, I don't know. You would actually know more about redirecting than I do, because I just beg for the subscribers, and that's how we get it moving. So to me, I'm like, if people are listening to this message, just go subscribe to the channel. I'm not good with all the technicalities. We need people to just subscribe to the channel. But thank you for that lovely compliment too, by the way. Guys, subscribe. And I'm not going to take long because y'all know but I'm just going to say, please subscribe to that second channel. That's where you're going to be doing the interviews as well, Sulaiman?
Yeah, just the interviews. The video interviews are going to be on there.
Yeah, so it is imperative that you guys subscribe to that channel because that channel needs to show that it has a lot of subscribers. So everybody listening should really just go and just hit subscribe and the notification bell, because not hitting the notification bells, it makes it that you're not going to see anything. You have to hit the bell. But it is important because people look for that. Like Sulaiman is working on getting some amazing interviews for us while this war is going on, and then in the future with anything else. So they want to see that a person has a lot of subscribers. And right now the second channel isn't showing that. Y'all need to get over there and hit subscribe and the notification bell. Thank you, guys.
Oh, and jump in, Casey. What was your thoughts as well?
Oh, thank you. Okay, so good to see everybody. I'm glad to be here, and I did retweet the space. So yeah, I was listening to what Simon was saying. He seemed to have dropped off, but I guess people are thinking like the war is over or something, like they're negotiating to end this war, because I don't see it that way at all. Like I just see it as a lot of gaslighting from Trump. I do see that Trump has been like, I don't know, maybe he's waking up, maybe the medicine isn't kicking in anymore or whatever. I'm not making excuses for him, allegedly, but I just see it as him maybe finally realizing that he has no way out. Maybe a surrender, but it needs to be like a hard surrender. Iran needs to get everything that they want. Everything. And the thing is, the reason why I just can't see this as like Israel just backing off and saying, okay, we're done. What Iran is able to show us right now is that where they are located and the force that they have and the willpower that they have and focus and patience, they've been able to bring the world down to its knees. I'm so, like, and I'm not laughing about this like it's funny, but it's just, I don't know, maybe this is a joyous laugh. It just shows you like it is almost, it's inspiring. It's like God is real, because the Zionists swear they have control over everything, but you didn't have control over this. You don't. And I don't trust Zionists to take over that area, but this would make it even more delicious to them. Like, I'm sure the Zionists are looking like, you see, that should be us, shutting down the world like that whenever we choose and please. Absolutely not. Iran, I pray for Iran. Iran really is showing what they can do. So they need to get everything that they want and continue to fortify themselves, because they'll never stop going after them. They'll never stop. They've showed us what they're able to do with this kind of power. And I trust them to have that kind of power. I do, because they could have wielded that power on us a long time ago, and they never did until they were attacked. So we're still praying for Iran. And yeah, I'm just delighted to see that. That this is giving me hope. So that's my thoughts.
Appreciate that. Resistance, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Give us your thoughts.
Hi, Sully. Thanks. I don't know if there's going to be a ground invasion. I know you're adamant there is. I'm 50-50. I can't really say one way or another there'll be a ground invasion. But I don't know whether we're going to get an agreement anytime soon. Like the panel here made some very compelling arguments. Robert, for example, Darkside, yourself, loads have said that actually, and Simon as well. You've all said the markets don't suggest. The markets suggest that there's, that an agreement is coming soon, because they don't really believe that this war is going to extend further. And you look at the oil contracts from July onwards. I mean, July, October, November. They're all going. They're below $100. So maybe not July, but they're all below $100. So it doesn't look like this war is going to. They don't believe it's going to extend. And if a ground invasion is going to happen, that could be catastrophic for America, and that would lead to. I think it'll be good for Iran, but it might just prolong the war. So I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. This ground invasion. I could see it happening, and I can see it not happening, if you know what I mean. Obviously, we all know, we've gone through how terrible it would be for America, for the ground invasion. But also, Netanyahu came out and said that actually we've neutered Iran. Iran's no longer a threat. Is he talking about an off ramp now? But then what happens to Lebanon? Because they're still going in Lebanon. They are still doing that ground invasion, even though they're losing heavily. And Hezbollah has taken land in northern Israel, occupied Palestine. So what happens there? What do the Iranians leave Hezbollah high and dry, or just allow them or maybe support them on the quiet if they make an agreement with the United States and Israel, and then Hezbollah just continues this ground defense and offense with Israel? I don't know what happens. There's lots of open-ended threads in this whole sort of war that I don't know what's going to happen. There's lots of things that need to be need to be closed, need to be tied off. Um, what happens in the Strait of Hormuz? Do they make concessions? Because I agree with you, there has to be some form of an agreement in place. Whether the United States agrees to all the concessions or not, I think they'll have to agree to most of the concessions if they're the ones looking to exit, and Israel is also looking to exit. But time and again, we've seen the IRGC say, and the government say, the Iranian government say, look, we're not prepared to negotiate until until you stop attacking us, until the attacks stop. So they're basically saying it's until they stop that then they'll start negotiating. I mean, how soft is that? This is what worries me and worries a lot of the Iranians, mainly the diaspora that are pro Iran. They get worried that that the government will stop and the IRGC will stop early and concede, and because they've got a powerful hand right now. They've closed the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, they can probably get sanctions lifted, but that won't be enough because I still think Israel's still going to pose a threat to them. So lots of things. It does seem like Iran could be negotiating. I didn't think that would be the case. Maybe they are willing to at least negotiate and accept some sort of terms, just because the market is playing along. Netanyahu is calming down, or well, Israel basically is looking to make an off ramp. United States obviously definitely wants this off ramp. So, part of me thinks that the ground invasion won't won't happen because there's maybe all sides are looking to potentially agree, but I don't know. I don't know how that looks like. I don't know how an agreement looks like. So I think we may continue for another few weeks until that settles, and the threat of that ground invasion will just continue looming for a while, but not happening. I could see that, or I could see, oh, a ground invasion happens over this weekend, but this weekend is Easter. Do they really think the soldiers are going to come in and get slaughtered during Easter? I don't think so. So that going to probably continue till the following weekend, and then we'll probably, if we have a ground invasion, it'll probably be then. But then, will that be likely? I don't know. It just seems like there's a slight air of calmingness or calmness that's happening, even though there's still intense attacks on both sides. It just doesn't feel like there's that momentum for a ground invasion. I don't know what you think. Am I making sense, Sully?
I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it is kind of a sentiment of everyone. I'm just confident that this is going to happen, and I think some of the things you've alluded to, for example, if they agree to push away, this is going to be one of the biggest mistakes Iran's made in a very long time. Trump's told everyone yesterday, he said, we're going to be coming back. So he's told everyone that. He said, if we pull out, like when we pull out, like the next person will come back and he'll, do what he's doing. So what that tells you is that they are going to plan for a ground invasion. I mean, sorry, that tells you that they will come back. So if Iran was to agree to this would be the biggest folly they could ever make. In their mind, they may think, oh, we can, in 3 years or 2 years, we can put ourselves in a better situation than they can. Maybe that's what they're thinking. But where does that leave the resistance? Today, Ayatollah the new supreme leader, came out and said, we will not abandon the resistance. So he said that today. That is quite important based on the based on a lot of the conversations about abandoning the resistance. We also saw today the so those are the 2 points. So he means like he'd have to abandon the resistance. You've got them on their knees, and so if hypothetically if there was a deal, it would just make no sense to me, and I think Iran would have. Yeah, to be honest, if there was a deal, I think there's more of a chance that Simon's position's right as opposed to Iran folding. That this was negotiated, which I don't believe it is. I just don't believe that all of this is fake. I do believe there's going to be escalation. I do believe that this is just Trump thinking that he's been smart and rug pulling, and then he is going to go to the ground invasion. Because, like, on your scenario, what, like, they just abandon Hezbollah or they continue to support them but secretly? But, like, how does a deal work in that scenario?
Yeah, I don't see how they can abandon Hezbollah, but the fact that Mustafa Khamenei said that actually we're not going to abandon the resistance, that could be he could be alluding to the fact that look, we are going to make some concessions, but we're not going to abandon the resistance. We'll probably not in the way that everyone thinks, but we'll support them on the quiet because we can, and because we'll agree with Americans that they to do that because America will be in such a desperate state, they would agree to us secretly supporting the resistance that way. And I think that might be why he's saying that, because no one, you just wouldn't come out and say that if you are, because Iran's foreign policy this is actually stated in their foreign policy. They support all the oppressed nations, is in particular the Islamic nations that are oppressed, or the Islamic people that are oppressed. So they do align themselves with Islamic and non-Islamic, whether again Cuba, Venezuela, obviously Hezbollah, Hamas, and Yemen and the Houthis. So they do. That's just part of their foreign policy. But they have got close ties with Hezbollah, a lot of close ties. And I think maybe Khamenei's saying this to just reassure the Hezbollah. I'm sure they got back channels, but just to assure people that are following this that actually, if in the event that we do make some sort of agreement, that we will not abandon the resistance. And obviously, Houthis seem to be fine. They can defend themselves, but they'll still have support from Iran. But it's Hezbollah. Hezbollah is in a really important point, really, in their sort of time, their sort of life, where they are actually really defeating Israel at the border, and they've literally nullified the infrastructure in northern occupied Palestine, because all the radar and everything else allows them to penetrate through their just normal conventional rockets, not even the missiles, into northern occupied Palestine. And why not? Why don't they continue with this? How do they stop? How do they get an off ramp with Israel? Because Israel says they want. Netanyahu said that we've defeated, we've neutered Iran, but we're still going to continue. We're going to create this buffer zone all the way up to the Tiny River. So, in terms of Lebanon, they haven't stopped their objectives. They're not even looking for an off ramp. So, how does Iran, like you said, how do they make an agreement and keep and support Hezbollah and allow that to happen, and allow Hezbollah to be supported in that way, and let them continue the war? They'll have to negotiate on behalf. I would have thought they need to negotiate on behalf of Hezbollah as well, and the resistance. Generally the whole resistance, because they got such a strong position. And I agree with you. If they make a deal now this month, it will be to their detriment. But because they are known to be soft, they're known to capitulate early, not capitulate, but concede early when they have the upper hand. It will be twice now that they did that, and it will be maybe 4 times where they could have retaliated heavily and they didn't. And I would say, like we were talking about this yesterday, or you, Sully, everyone, and I was hearing the recording this morning rather, from last night, because obviously I had to go to bed, but I was listening to it, and I agree with you. People are too soft. The Iranians are too soft. That was the day before. The Iranians are just too soft for their own good, and that actually they need to hit harder. I'm in agreement with all of you guys who said this. They need to go harder certainly against Israel, and perhaps the GCC countries, their infrastructure and stuff, their oil infrastructure, to really show them, to teach them a lesson, and also to start really inflicting the sort of damage that will cause them to either be structurally weakened for the longer term, and also become allow them to if they do negotiate, or if they do end up having an agreement, it will be so heavily in their favor and in the resistance favor that that they will want to do that. So I do think they need to be stronger now. They need to go in, they need to press in harder, and it's no point, because they're doing a lot of damage, Israel and United States, in Iran. And if they don't get reparations for that as well, they don't, and don't tell me about, oh well, they're going to lift the sanctions and they're going to do a toll for the Strait of Hormuz. That's absolutely ridiculous. The amount of damage they've done in Iran is in the tens of billions, and that should be, and it's through no fault of Iran, that should be paid off straight away from day one, day dot. That if Iran has any sense of pride and sort of confidence and justice, then they would demand that as at least one of those first concessions, and never mind about lifting of sanctions and creating a toll in the Strait of Hormuz. And then also the U.S. bases. They have a very strong position. I'm just fearful that they won't take it. I'm just fearful they won't take it. And I agree. I've heard also in the news that maybe Pezeskian's quotes were not actually true, and that they were misquoted, or he didn't exactly say that he wanted to make a deal. But again, that I've heard that from sources in Iran, but I don't know if it's true or not. And I need to find out from other friends and sources there. But that could be the fact that gives me hope that they're not going to concede. They're not going to concede early. But you just never know. I think this threat of ground invasion is just something that is there just to give America some sort of semblance of strength. But I don't believe that I'm 50-50 on whether that's going to happen or not. And I'm hoping that Iran continue this war until the US and Israel are on their knees, and they get rid of the bases, and they implement the plan, the points that they want, which is obviously removal of sanctions, removal of bases, the lifting reparations, and also the provisions around the resistance themselves, Hezbollah and maybe the Palestinian cause. Not necessarily, but I think they need that if they're in a strong hand. So they need to continue, and also pacify the Gulf countries, because they're always going to be a threat now going forward. They'll know whether the war ends or not. Well, it will end. But even after the war ends, that relationship between Iran and the Gulf countries will never ever be the same again. And so the Gulf will never trust Iran, ever. And it's in their best interest that they should never ever trust any of these Gulf countries. No way. So if they make an agreement early, they got to be careful of the backstabbing Gulf countries. They really have to be careful, because those Gulf countries will think, we can't afford to have this again. We've created this Middle East region, this Gulf region, to be peaceful and a haven for security and financial freedom and investment opportunities and business growth. So they're not going to want Iran to be powerful in this situation. So Iran, this is another angle they need to be careful of if they're ever going to make a deal. They should never make a deal early, because especially for this reason.
Thanks for that, Resistance. Great assessment. And yeah, I still think there is going to be a war. But let's go to Beatrix. Beatrix has decided to, I think, turn up to the space. So thanks for your very minimal engagement. Have you got any kind of updates?
Oh my God. You're so bad, Sulaiman. I've literally been here from the beginning. I just had to pop out really quickly, but I'm back. And let me give a roundup of the news. There's been quite a lot of news. Guys, a couple of things. We will live stream Trump's statement today, but I have to let you know that if it's just like his what was that State of Union address where he's talking absolute garbage for an hour and a half and not related to Iran at all, we will stop the live stream. So don't worry, because we're not putting anybody through that again. Hopefully it won't be absolute rubbish. And it will be relative to the Iran war. So let
Wait,
me
that's
just give
fake
a
news.
roundup of the.
That we're gonna be streaming that. That is a world moving speech.
Well, we hope it is, but do you remember last time, Sulaiman? Last time, what he did was he said we all thought it was. You weren't here actually, so you were quite lucky. Simon and I had to sit. Well, actually, you were, but you'd gone off. But we had to stream that, and it was just an hour and a half of "I'm the greatest there's ever been. I've done the best anybody's ever done." It was an hour and a half of that, completely unrelated to Iran whatsoever. So let me give a roundup of the
Yeah,
news.
and by the way,
Welcome,
Beatrice,
Jeremy.
just before you give the roundup, by the way, also let people know to follow the YouTube channel because in 30
I'm going
minutes
to.
we've got an interview with Trita Parsi, and it's going to be from that YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm going to. I want to welcome Jeremy. Jeremy, I hear that there's a there's a video of me that you've been saying is, Beatrix has been found nicking diesel across England. Beatrix has been spotted, Jeremy. I find out everything, Jeremy. So yeah, we'll come to that in a second. Guys, I'm really excited about this new YouTube channel. It's going to be fab, bridge the gap. Brilliant brand, brilliant name. And that's where we'll get to see all the interviews. So look, there is a post in the nest. Above you can see myself and Sulaiman. I'd like everyone to go there and retweet that post. And this is the second YouTube channel, and quote tweet it. So we've set this up so that people can actually find the interviews. These are experts that Sulaiman's interviewing in their own individual fields. And the more they're trying to censor the real news about Iran getting out, if there was no this space, if there was no Sulaiman's channels, you'd find it really difficult to find out what the actual news is and the analysis, as Andrew says. So please, I want everybody to go up there and retweet that, quote tweet it, and then go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to subscribe. Simply click on that link that's in the nest above where you can see myself and Sulaiman on the X space, and press the subscribe button. That's all you have to do. It doesn't cost anything. It takes 30 seconds. Lily, I appreciate you for already quote tweeting it. BTS, thank you very much. BTS has even gone one step further. BTS is coming back, has put a screenshot of your actual channel. So really appreciate that. Omar, thank you very much. Guys, quote tweet it, retweet it. The tweet is in the nest. I appreciate everyone is doing it. Sandy Chill has just done it. Appreciate you, Sandy Chill. Thank you so much. If you quote tweet it, I'll read it out. If you retweet it, I'll also give you a shout out. We'll go to the news as well. There's a lot of news. Hope_AN, long-time listener. Never heard you much on Spaces on the panel, but really appreciate you. And I see that you do retweet all of them. Kieran Maxwell, Rachel, Rach007, long-time listener again. We know Deborah Irvin, brilliant. Thank you so much. And this is Deborah, who's also supporting on the YouTube channel. So really appreciate you. Johan Carlos, appreciate you retweeting it. Sunny Brook, appreciate you retweeting it. So guys, I want everybody to quote tweet it and retweet it, and then go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me just go to the news really quickly, and then we'll come back to that. So Pete Hegseth has said regime change has occurred in Iran, but they're just not aware of it. So apparently Iran's been regime changed, but the Iranians are not aware that they've been regime changed. Like, how do these people get in power? I have zero idea. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I've got a quote. There's a mixture of news that somebody's found. You'll see that Trump's coming down hard on NATO and the UK and European countries because he wants their help to open the Strait of Hormuz. And I'll cover that in the news roundup in a second. And we've said on this space for the last 3-4 weeks that this is the first time that Europe and the UK, even though the UK is not really making a stand, it is covertly helping in the war on Iran. But it's not sending its military in or its navy in to help with the Strait of Hormuz. None of the European countries have done that. And that's what Trump wants them to do. So it's the first time they've kind of taken, some of them, a stance against America. They've never done this before. And they're being called out for it by America. They're being bullied by America. They've been chastised by Trump. And we've said on this space for 4 weeks that they deserve it. because they should have never gone along with the Russia-Ukraine thing. We should have never gone into Iraq because America said it. We shouldn't have done all of these things. And so for the first time, we're taking a stand. Trump is chastising us. Well, they deserve it. But here's a quote from J.D. Vance in April 2025. And this shows you how hypocritical America is being at the moment, right? J.D. Vance said in April 2025, a year ago, okay, I think a lot of European nations were right about our invasion of Iraq. Frankly, if the Europeans had been a little more independent and a little more willing to stand up, then maybe we could have saved the entire world from the strategic disaster that was the American-led invasion of Iraq. I don't want the Europeans to just do what the Americans tell them to do. I don't think it's in their interest, and I don't think it's in our interest either. This is what he said 1 year ago. So a year later, now that the Europeans are like, yeah, it's not really in our interest to get involved in Iran, he's like, well, why not? We want you to do what we tell you to do. Get on board now. You see that? The IRGC have released a statement saying, as a result of yesterday's naval attack by the IRGC on a secret gathering place of American officers in the UAE, 37 people were definitely killed and many others were injured and transferred to city hospitals. President Trump, and thank you to somebody who actually did DM me this, I appreciate you. President Trump has threatened to stop supplying Ukraine with weapons if European nations don't join his coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So in order to prevent that, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, complete waste of space, guys, he's pressing the UK, Germany, and France to release a joint statement expressing their readiness to support operations to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That guy, General Mark Rutte, he's on the complete opposite side to the European countries. So he wants them to do what Trump wants them to do, basically. And he wants them to release a joint statement saying, yeah, we'll help. Trump's calling them out for not helping, and they don't want to help. The other thing that's interesting is Trump saying he's not going to supply Ukraine with any more weapons if they don't, if NATO doesn't come on board. So I'm thinking, not that long ago, America was asking Ukraine to say, send us some of your weapons now. Your war's not as important. Send us some of your weapons. And yet at the same time, we've got that little pint-sized dictator, Zelensky, going and signing weapons deals with GCC countries, Saudi, Qatar. So where do these weapons come from? What is his purpose here? So just some thoughts there. And we'll come on to that, by the way, about what the UK is doing in terms of trying to open the Strait of Hormuz. There's a lot of news. The Iranian embassy in South Africa, the official Iranian embassy in South Africa, tweeted out, Iran's greatest strategic ally are the people of Iran. Iranian officials say that President Pezeshkian will be releasing an important letter to the American people in a few hours. This is set to be released just hours before Trump's 9 p.m. address to the nation. So we're going to cover that real time, guys, okay? This is an important letter from Iranian President Pezeshkian, and it's going to be with a specific message to the American people, and it's going to be released before Trump's 9 p.m. address. So I'm wondering what's going down here. Trump cannot change the time of his address now. They're taking over all the key channels in America. They're stopping all the programs, and I did read this earlier. All the scheduled programs will be interrupted for Trump's keynote address on Iran today. That time has been publicized globally now. The world's media is going to be watching, so he can't change that. And after that's gone out, Iran's turned around and said, yeah, that's fine, but we're going to be releasing a statement for the American people before that. So interesting what they're going to do. Okay. In a letter to the UN Security Council, this is being reported, the UAE is invoking Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter, which is commonly referred to as use of force. And they're seeking immediate action in order to ensure the safe and secure navigation and navigational rights and freedoms in and around the Strait of Hormuz. So the UAE and I'll read the full thing out for you because I do have that, is invoking Chapter 7, use of force. There's been explosions rocking Dubai at US bases in the last hour. A little bit of separate news on America. This was reported by ProPublica, who say that under Attorney General Pam Bondi, the DOJ dropped over 23,000 criminal cases, including hundreds of investigations into white-collar crime, drugs, terrorism, whilst prosecuted 33,000 new immigration cases in just the first 6 months of Trump's second term. So in 6 months, they went after 32,000 immigrants and they dropped 23,000 criminal cases. White-collar crime, obviously we know white-collar crimes, people with money, investigations into drugs and terrorism. The Iranian embassy account in Kuwait, which is their official account, said, "Who holds the reins? ? The US seeks to implement the policies of Israeli Zionists." And they're showing the US being an eagle on that. And they're showing, another animal on top of the eagle with the Israeli flag on it. So we covered that Trump threatened to stop supplying weapons to Ukraine unless Europe joins in reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Concerns are growing, and this is Israeli Broadcasting Authority. They cited an Israeli source, and they said concerns are growing that Trump may settle for Iran's wars, achievements, and declare it over. So Israel's getting concerned. Israel's like, well, you know what? He better not settle and just declare this over. We want more. We want more blood. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Given that there's no Israeli people being killed in the UAE as a result of this war. It's Americans that are putting their lives, brave Americans, on the front line. This was reported by Axios, Zio Axios, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. Axios says that the US and Iran are discussing a potential deal that would involve a ceasefire in exchange for Iran opening the Strait of Hormuz. And what they're saying is that China and Pakistan reportedly presented a peace initiative along those lines yesterday. And earlier today, Iran's foreign ministry called Trump's claims that Iran has requested a ceasefire to be false and baseless, but US officials cautioned that it was unclear whether a deal could be reached. It's just a mess. Nobody has a clue what's going on. They've polluted the media to such a degree. Iran has been consistent in what it says, that it has exchanged messages via mediators. It's not interested in a ceasefire. It wants a stop to the war, and it wants to make sure it doesn't happen again. They fully understand what a ceasefire means, guys, right? A ceasefire, Israeli style, means we take a short break, a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month. We stock up again, and then we start again because we like to just do war. Israel has been at war. I don't think there's a country, one day in the last 3 years where Israel has not bombed one country. Not one day in the last 3 years. It's quite astonishing, really, considering they call everybody else terrorist nation. America's lost 16 MQ-9 Reaper drones since the Iran war began on February the 28th. CBS News said this, 16 MQ-9. Each MQ-9 Reaper costs $30 million, which would put the value of the drones lost so far at nearly $500 million. This is just the drones, 16 of them. At the same time, Trump has made a statement saying Americans don't care about the $4 gas prices. They're feeling a lot safer now that we got rid of that madman called Khamenei. So I was thinking about this, that if I went down to the suburbs of America, where there's just hardworking Americans, right? They probably have no idea what's happening, like on the bigger picture of this war. They're not on social media. They're just trying to survive. They're hardworking, decent people, which overwhelmingly the majority of Americans are. And I said to them, how's this gas price increase affecting you? And they were struggling to make ends meet, like literally struggling for food and bills and everything with these gas prices. And then I said to them, but I'm sure you're feeling better because Khamenei's been killed. What would their reaction be? Because this is what the president of the United States of America thinks. He thinks Americans don't care about the increase in gas prices because they feel safer now that the madman, as he calls it, called Khamenei, is dead. Trump's now trying to drag the royal family into this Strait of Hormuz things. He says that the king would have stood by him on the Iran war. He would have taken a very different stand to Keir Starmer, but he doesn't do that. Trump knows very well that the royal family is apolitical. They're not allowed to make statements on ongoing wars and political stances. The IRGC, the Organization of the Revolutionary Guard, issued a statement saying in Washington, generals have lost logistics on the ground and politicians have lost the ability to make decisions. The claim that war is progressing faster than planned means that military command has given way to a media spectacle. They're actually saying they've got zero military command left and it's a media spectacle. And the politicians in Washington have lost the ability to make decisions. They're being called out. Useless statement of the day. We're going to do some useless statements of the day, right? So this is a useless statement of the day. It's French President Macron. He is visiting Japan. And while he was in Japan, he called for a ceasefire. From day one, Iran has been consistent. Don't offer us a ceasefire. We want a stop to this war. And we want guarantees it's never going to happen again. Don't give us one of your rubbish ceasefires, which means that, you can start it again in a week. But Macron missed the memo. So just token gesture. Useless statement of the day. He's calling for a ceasefire. I was telling you guys this earlier. Trump's speech tonight will be broadcast live across all 4 major networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox. It begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So what's that? 2 p.m. UK time, guys. And it's going to interrupt all the TV shows at that time, including, people are saying, 2-hour season finale of The Masked Singer and a 2-hour special episode of Survivor. They're basically interrupting all the schedules. It's wiped clean just for Trump's speech. Either he's going to say this is over, we've achieved tremendous success, or he's going to try to manipulate the American public, put the fear of life into them to convince them that it's important, that they're doing boots on the ground. I think it's going to be the former. I think he's going to rant and rave about how successful he's been and how if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed, it's going to be all the fault of the Europeans and the Americans and the GCC countries, and America's completely clean out of it, and America's done a brilliant job, and it's not America's problem anymore, and I think he's going to back out. But let's see. 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 a.m. in the morning, UK time, and it's going to be across all 4 major networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox, and we will be live streaming it here, guys, and we'll be doing an analysis straight after it. So, in terms of NATO, the US ambassador to NATO has said that Trump is reevaluating everything related to NATO, including support for European efforts regarding Ukraine. So I think he may slowly begin the process of withdrawing from NATO. Remember, he wanted to do this the first term anyway. And then the Ukraine-Russia conflict started. Trump has claimed the Iran war is over 14 times in 30 days. 14 times in 30 days. Trump has claimed the Iran war is over, and yet they keep bombing Iran. And yet the American bases and American interests keep getting bombed in the GCC, but it's been over. He keeps saying 14 times, that's once every 48 hours, he said the Iran war is over. This crazy. This guy's crazy. This whole situation's crazy. Iran's IRGC launched the 89th wave of Operation True Promise 4. We're on wave 89. And this was jointly with regional resistance groups. They've launched hundreds of missiles, drones, and rockets at US and Israeli targets. That's what they say. In his latest post, commander of the IRGC's aerospace force, the the aerospace force that no longer exists because Trump said he's destroyed them all. I think within 48 hours, he said the Navy's at the bottom of the sea. They don't have a military. It's all gone. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. The leadership's gone. It's all gone. We've won the war. But anyway, this commander of IRGC's aerospace force, Brigadier General Sayed Majid Musavi, he done a tweet and he's saying to the Israelis, prepare your shelters. Prepare your shelters. At the same time, the Israeli army says 48 members were wounded in 24 hours in Lebanon clashes. These guys are getting hammered in Lebanon. The Israelis are getting absolutely hammered in Lebanon. And I'm really concerned by what they're doing. They're killing a lot of civilians in Lebanon as well. And this is a land grab that's going on. If Israel was to withdraw from Lebanon and never try to occupy their land again, I can promise you there would never be any danger from Hezbollah because Hezbollah are simply defending their territory. That's all it is. JD Vance, apparently, and Reuters reported this, has been communicating with Pakistani intermediaries about the Iran conflict, signaling that Trump is open to a ceasefire if US demands like reopening the Strait of Hormuz are met. He also warned Iran that failure to agree could lead to increased pressure on its infrastructure. Pakistan's acting as a go-between, and Vance is taking a growing role in negotiations as the conflict enters its 5th week. Now, this is interesting. Do you remember when there were reports that they didn't want to negotiate and nobody wanted to have Witkoff and Kushner as intermediaries because they're, quote unquote, the mouthpiece for Israel? They're the people who talked Trump into doing this, Kushner. And Trump said it on the record that Kushner told me that was the right time. So they are the mouth. There's nothing to do with this. This is fake. Nobody said this, Witkoff and Kushner, good guys and stuff. Well, guess what? They are all talking to JD Vance now. Pakistan's talking to JD Vance. Kushner, no, they're not talking to Kushner. So it's true. And we reported it, saying it's probably likely true. It's also interesting that Iran said, do not hit our infrastructure because we won't do an eye for an eye anymore. We'll hit you back harder. And here JD Vance is threatening Iran that if they don't agree to open the Strait of Hormuz, it will lead to increased pressure on its infrastructure. Pressure on its infrastructure is mild language for saying we're going to carry on bombing your infrastructure. Now, if you want the Strait of Hormuz open so badly, you had it open. 34 days ago, it was open. It wasn't closed. All vessels could go through there free at no cost, no problems. It's only closed because of your war. And in fact, it's not closed. It's only closed to the countries that are supporting the terrorism as Iran views it and wanting to pay in dollars. That's it. Otherwise, it's open. There's an interesting article somebody's done about how the Iran war cracked Dubai's liberal facade. It says that whilst Dubai brands itself the safest city in the world, the Iran war exposed a harsher reality. And it talks about censorship, arrests, missiles, drones, has shattered the carefree oasis and shattered the illusion of invulnerability. It's interesting. Keir Starmer says the war on Iran, and this is also a useless statement of the day, guys, right? This is him weaponizing the war to make living conditions here extremely difficult for people. I was thinking of Simon when I read this earlier. He says the war on Iran will shape Britain's future, warning it could have long-term economic and security impacts, but insists the UK will not be drawn into the conflict. He's lying. We cover this every day. B-2 bombers are using our air bases. We've got 2 teams sat at CENTCOM in Florida helping them figure out how to open the Strait of Hormuz. He's literally sending our military to the region. Yesterday he announced that. I don't understand. They're using our airspace. At least Spain said they can't use their airspace, and so did France. They're using our airspace. So we are in the conflict. And yes, it will have long-term economic and security impacts. Him saying it doesn't make it any easier. Channel 14, Israel's Channel 14 reported that Israel is now under the largest continuous Iranian attack since the strikes began. largest continuous Iranian attack since the strikes began. So Iran's going all in, which makes me think that Trump may announce that it's done. The Strait of Hormuz is not his problem, and America's out of it, and there's going to be peace in the region, because this is why Iran's going in. Iran's doing in Israel, basically going in, and just saying, right, let me just finish the job while I can, because we don't want terrorism from Israel anymore. Clash Report said this, that Ambassador Saeed Ali Musavi, Iranian ambassador, said Tehran will consider every option to defend itself. The UK thought staying out of this war was an option. Iran said no. So Iran knows that British military bases are being used by US forces. They know that. They're not stupid. And so they're saying that, you know what, if you carry on with that, then you make yourself a target. An interesting clip from J.D. Vance has come out today. He's done an interview and he says that Trump is building a new world order that includes globalization and global trade, but on his own terms. He said there's a new world order taking shape, and Trump is willing to shake up long-standing alliance structures. He adds that the New World Order is being built in an America First way. It isn't, guys. We know it's not being built in an America First way. A reporter asked Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister, Trump says the US won't back the UK anymore. How seriously do you take that threat? And Starmer said, it won't change my position. I serve the British national interest, whatever the noise. Whatever the noise. That's basically saying Trump's an embarrassment, whatever the noise. Abbas Arakshi was asked, what is your view on guarantees? Could countries such as Pakistan, Egypt, or Turkey provide guarantees? And Abbas Arakshi said, naturally, the guarantee of one or two countries is not enough. Experience has shown that even the guarantee of the Security Council is not enough. He's right, the United Nations means nothing. Some ideas have been proposed by our friends as to how effective guarantees could be created for a full and lasting end to the war. See, guys, they've never asked for a ceasefire. They've always asked for a full and lasting end to the war. We are studying those ideas. So if that day comes when the war is to end according to Iran's conditions, it will be clear what guarantees could actually be effective. Let me see what else he said. He's talked about the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think there's anything new here. And Ireland and everything else. Red Sea. It's quite interesting, actually, because he's done a big interview. Keir Starmer says we should strengthen our cooperation with the EU in defense, security, energy, and the economy. I tell you what, the dumbest people on earth, dumber than Trump, are the British at the moment. Keir Starmer. This guy wants to strengthen our cooperation with the EU in defense, security, energy, and the economy when we literally left the European Union 5 years ago at great cost to the UK. It damaged us so much. We had all of this cooperation there. We were one block with them for defense, for security, for energy, and the economy. And you know what? All of these politicians knew it was a bad deal for us. But big business wanted it because they didn't want the red tape from the European Union. And they whipped up a frenzy about immigration and this, that, and the other. Now we've left. 5 years later, he wants to go back and strengthen the cooperation with them. I hope they tell him to get lost as well. And yes, I know it's going to be bad for the UK, but we need to learn our lesson. And thinking about what Casey said earlier about Trump losing his marbles, or words to that effect. Trump's calling the new Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, far more intelligent than his predecessor, Masoud Pezeshkian. The Iranian president hasn't changed, guys. And I think somebody should tell Trump that it's still the same Iranian president. So he says, Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. No, he didn't. They don't want a ceasefire. We'll consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear. It was open, free, and clear before you started the war, guys, right? Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Iran doesn't have a new president, guys. It's the same president that was there before the war. So I don't know what's going on with Trump, but I think he needs some psychiatric help here at the moment. You can't make errors like that when you're at war. You can't do posts like that when you're at war. It's completely misleading as well. I mentioned this at the start of the news roundup. The UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs says reports that the UAE is willing to join the fight against Iran to take control of the Strait of Hormuz are not accurate. What they say is that recent reporting suggests a shift in the UAE's posture is misleading. The UAE maintains a defensive posture focused on protecting its sovereignty. It goes on and on and on. And then they say, in this context, the UAE remains ready to support collective international efforts aimed at safeguarding maritime security and ensuring the uninterrupted flow of commerce. Any such engagement would have to be conducted in full coordination with international partners and in strict adherence to international law. Now, we know international law doesn't exist, because if international law existed, we wouldn't have this situation that we've got now, with Iran being bombarded and just Israel and America doing what they want. But this statement means that if people were going to go forward to use military action to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, the UAE will join in, which is what they're denying, but it says that. Keir Starmer, right? Let's come on to this. Do you know what? I'll tell you, I don't know if I want to bother reading it, but I'll read it. So Britain is hosting a meeting with a few countries to discuss the Strait of Hormuz. So here we have it. We have a prime minister that says, "Oh, we're not going to get involved. We're not going to get involved in this Iranian war." But then, he's under pressure from Trump to say, "You better fix up and you better get me a solution for the Strait of Hormuz." He sent out 2 teams to CENTCOM 3 weeks ago. We covered it on this space if you were listening. 2 teams went out to Florida, CENTCOM, to help them devise a strategy to open the Strait of Hormuz. He's then sent out some military people to try to open the Strait of Hormuz. That's not worked. So now he's hosting a meeting with the following countries to discuss the Strait of Hormuz. Sorry, guys, I just need to take a sip. So let me tell you which countries this guy's hosting. This is how big Keir Starmer's getting involved. He's hosting Albania, Australia, Bahrain, Bulgaria, Canada, Chile, Croatia, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Kosovo, Latvia, Lithuania, Marshall Islands, Moldova, Montenegro, New Zealand, Nigeria, North Macedonia, Norway, Panama, Portugal, Republic of Korea, Romania, Slovenia, Sweden, the Netherlands, Trinidad and Tobago, and the UAE. The only 2 GCC countries here are the UAE and Bahrain. He's got all those piddly little islands, right, that nobody cares about. So basically, he's trying to get anybody and everybody on board so that there can be a world, kind of coalition for military action against Iran. This is what Trump and Netanyahu were desperate to do. They were desperate to get the GCC involved. They were desperate to get Europe involved. They wanted Europe on board. They wanted to make it like the world against Iran. All these countries resisted. But here is Keir Starmer doing that dirty work for America. That's why I say I love my country and I'm patriotic, but Britain needs to learn a freaking lesson. And at the cost of British people, we need to realize that our country's leaders are just sucking up to America at the cost of British people, and it's wrong. So he's hosting all of these countries to discuss the Strait of Hormuz, but you know who isn't there? I'll tell you who isn't there. There's no Brazil there. There's no China there. There's no Russia there. There's no South Africa there, and there's no India there. No BRICS nations are involved in this long list of people that he's hosting right now. People think that Keir Starmer's just trying to get ahead of some bad news that's likely to follow. They think Trump may do a surprise attack on Iran over the long weekend, Easter weekend, because he's got an extra day with the markets closed to try to finish the job, quote unquote. And they think maybe Starmer has this intel. Starmer's been told this. And so he's trying to jump the gun and trying to save his own political career through these vague announcements and these forums where he's hosting all these countries and everything else. Let's see. Let's see what Trump has in store. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said, "We do not accept deadlines. No one can set deadlines for us. You cannot speak to the people of Iran with the language of threats and deadlines. One must speak to the people of Iran with respect." Well, at least he said it. Saudi's MBS didn't even say that when Trump said he was kissing his ass. He also said it is not in international waters on the Strait of Hormuz. He said it's not international waters, it's the internal waters of Iran and Oman. And he's right. It is. It's Iran and Oman. The strait is currently open, which we've been saying all along that it is open. He says it's closed only to those who are at war with Iran. For many of them, especially those from friendly countries, we've put arrangements in place so they can pass through the strait safely. Some countries have passed through the strait after reaching an agreement with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz can be a waterway of peace, enabling the calm passage of ships from all countries. He says, on the Gulf countries, he said, "We do not attack our friends in the Persian Gulf region. We attack American facilities, American forces, and American targets that unfortunately are located in these countries. They are using the people of the Persian Gulf as human shields." He's not wrong there. The United States is using the territory, airspace, and waters of these countries to attack Iran. Are they fired from 2,000 kilometers away? No. 3 American F-15s were in Kuwait. Anyone can ask, what were they doing in Kuwait? They refuel in the region through American aerial tankers stationed at their bases there. If there were no American bases, no one would attack them. Our friends in the Persian Gulf region should complain about the United States and the Zionist regime instead of complaining about us. That is really not fair. He's really coming out golden. Trump's made some more deluded statements. He says, "I didn't need regime change, but we got it." And the Iran's enriched uranium. He says, Iran's enriched uranium. It's so far underground. I don't care about that. Like, what is this war about then? You didn't want regime change. You're not interested in uranium. They can build nukes later. Like, so it was about the Strait of Hormuz, but it was open. So why did you start a war? Oh, God. The Guardian, British newspaper The Guardian, said Trump is stumbling into war with Iran and every word he says makes the situation more ambiguous. They said Trump, by announcing imaginary victories, you know, when the British media starts calling you out for your imaginary victories, you're in trouble, and constantly changing red lines, has plunged the US into isolation from which it will not be able to escape even with a peace treaty. That sounds severe, guys. That sounds severe. Amazon's cloud computing operation in Bahrain was damaged following an Iranian strike today. So do you remember yesterday when Iran said it's going to start hitting American corporations now because America keeps hitting its infrastructure? And it said we're going to go after Amazon and Google and all these companies that are all based around the Middle East. Well, they did. Amazon's cloud computing operation in Bahrain was damaged following an Iranian strike. The IRGC said 2 early warning radar systems used by America on a maritime structure in the waters and islands of the UAE were destroyed. Early warning radar systems in the UAE were destroyed. Wow. An Israeli affiliated oil tanker under the commercial name Aqua One was hit and is currently burning. They've done a whole list of things. US Chinook Helicopter Preparation Center and the equipment storage hangars at Al Diriri US base was hit with a combination of ballistic missiles and drones. There's a whole list of their achievements, what they have listed here, guys. What else is there? I think that's Oh, this is it. This is one thing I did want to read to you. The CEO of JP Morgan Chase, right? The investment bank JP Morgan Chase. I used to think these CEOs were quite bright, but then I realized a while ago that they're not very smart at all. Listen to his statement. His statement. I would step back a little bit when you say it's a war of choice. There was no imminent threat. Question mark. He says they've been killing people around the world for 45 plus years. This is what he says about Iran. They funded Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. They have terrorist cells here. They're about to get ballistic missiles that can go almost 3,000 miles. They never gave up nuclear. I pray it ends well. That's what he says. So he says it wasn't a war of choice. They were desperate. Yeah, I'm just going to read this. So, House Republicans flee Congress in record numbers amid growing dysfunction. 36 House Republicans have announced that they're not going to seek re-election. So, I don't know about Trump winning the midterms. He won't even have candidates to run for the House at this stage. It's April the 7th. What is it? May, June, July, August. About 6-7 months before November. And 36 Republicans have already said they're not going to run for re-election. That's guys, we'll pause there for the news now. See what everyone's got to say.
Thanks for that, Beatrix. I don't know what's happening, but you're causing many, many problems. Many, many problems. These simps are simping so badly. It is unbelievable. Let me just quickly give you some of these super chats. There's a Jamal Lama says, level 1 membership. Thank you for becoming a level 1 member. Appreciate you becoming an important member of the community. And he says, for your information, there's a decent sized solar storm right now equals satellite and internet issues. Not the Zios and after the space, but this is to be expected. Yeah, I rang the internet company and they were like, oh, we didn't see any drop off. Like, do you think they're lying to me, or do you think, I don't know, bro? Because the internet went out. Remember, the stream down, we restarted the stream. And then during Simon's interview, the internet was a bit weird as well. Anyway, we've plugged it in now, so it's not using Wi-Fi. Let's see if that works the situation better. Thank you so much for your level 1 membership as well. I appreciate you becoming an important member of the community. I think you already were, so you probably renewed your membership. And then we got Gumba, who was someone who used to call out Beatrix, but now has become a simp. And he's your team Beatrix 10 times better than Sully. Oh my god, L to the simps. Buzzy Sue says Beatrix news update on Bridge the Gap, please. Oh my god, what is up with all these simps? Anyway, guys, the Trita interview has been delayed. He said he double booked. So hopefully that one should be after the Anthony Aguilar interview. The Anthony Aguilar interview is in 50 minutes. And it's going to be on the new channel, which is Bridge the Gap, that tweets in the nest. So that interview is going to be there. So make sure you're following it. I know I can see many people on our YouTube chat, the legends, are posting it continuously, telling people to follow. How many people are followed? Let me see. Only 287 people. Guys, we need everyone to be following that channel. You're not following that channel, you're a Zayo. So make sure you're following it, especially for when we're going to do the interview. We've got 600 people on the YouTube. How come everyone on YouTube is not following it? I don't get it. And we got how many people on here? 2,000, but obviously Elon's taken us off the ticker, so people can't see the space. So this is how we need to make sure that we are diversifying. They take one channel down, we've got the other channel, we got the YouTube, we got the X. Elon's already taken us, due to the commands of Marco Rubio, has made sure that we're not showing on the purple thing at the top for the majority of people. So make sure you're retweeting, make sure you're resharing, and make sure you are making people aware of the space. And thank you to Siddha, who's just tweeted the new channel link. We'll be doing the interviews on there, like I said. We'll be doing the normal videos on here and streaming the space on here as well, just to give some kind of separation between the two. Okay, let's go to... I just saw Adam and then dropped.
Sulaiman, just before we go anywhere, in my news update, I did say that Pezeshkian was going to be releasing a letter for the American people. and he was going to do it before he was going to release a message to the American people, and he was going to do it before Trump's speech tonight. He's actually released that letter now. It's a message to the American people. I've not had a chance to read it. Should we read it quickly?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So let me just bring it up. And thank you to everybody on YouTube who've messaged me saying that it's been released. Appreciate you all. Okay, let's have a look. Right, he says, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. And guys, this is the Iranian president. He's released this statement. Specifically, it's a message for the American people. And he said he was going to release a statement of an important message before Trump's speech tonight. And this is it. So it says, to the people of the United States of America and to all those who, amid a flood of distortions and manufactured narratives, wow, powerful language, right? Let me just take a sip of tea quickly. To all those who, amid a flood of distortions and manufactured narratives, continue to seek the truth and aspire to a better life. Iran, by this very name, character, and identity, is one of the oldest continuous civilizations in human history. Despite its historical and geographical advantages at various times, Iran has never, in its modern history, chosen the path of aggression, expansion, colonialism, or domination. Even after enduring occupation, invasion, and sustained pressure from global powers, and despite possessing military superiority over many of its neighbors, Iran has never initiated a war. Yet it has resolutely and bravely repelled those who have attacked it. The Iranian people harbor no enmity towards other nations, including the people of America, Europe, or neighboring countries. Even in the face of repeated foreign interventions and pressures throughout their proud history, Iranians have consistently drawn a clear distinction between governments and the people they govern. This is a deeply rooted principle in Iranian culture and collective consciousness, not a temporary political stance. For this reason, portraying Iran as a threat is neither consistent with historical reality, nor with present-day observable facts. Such a perception is the product of political and economic whims of the powerful, the need to manufacture an enemy in order to justify pressure, maintain military dominance, sustain the arms industry, and control strategic markets. In such an environment, if a threat does not exist, it is invented. Within this same framework, the United States has concentrated the largest number of its forces, bases, and military capabilities around Iran, a country that, at least since the founding of the United States, has never initiated a war. Recent American aggressions launched from these very bases have demonstrated how threatening such a military presence truly is. Naturally, no country confronted with such conditions would forego strengthening its defensive capabilities. What Iran has done and continues to do is a measured response grounded in legitimate self-defense, and by no means an initiation of war or aggression. Relations between Iran and the United States were not originally hostile, and early interactions between the Iranian and American people were not marred with hostility or coup d'etat. The turning point, however, was the intervention aimed at preventing the nationalization of Iran's own resources. That 1953 coup disrupted Iran's democratic process, reinstated dictatorship, and sowed deep distrust amongst Iranians towards US policies. This distrust deepened further with America's support for the Shah's regime, its backing of Saddam Hussein during the imposed war of the 1980s, the imposition of the longest and most comprehensive sanctions in modern history, and ultimately unprovoked military aggression twice in the midst of negotiations against Iran. Yet all these pressures have failed to weaken Iran. On the contrary, the country has grown stronger in many areas. Literacy rates have tripled. Higher education has expanded dramatically. Significant advances have been achieved in modern technology, healthcare, services have improved, and infrastructure has developed at a pace and scale incomparable to the past. These are measurable, observable realities that stand independent of fabricated narratives. At the same time, the destructive and inhumane impact of sanctions, war, and aggression on the lives of the resilient Iranian people must not be underestimated. The continuation of military aggression and recent bombings profoundly affects people's lives, attitudes, and perspectives. This reflects a fundamental human truth. When war inflicts irreparable harm on lives, homes, cities, and futures, people will not remain indifferent towards those responsible. This raises a fundamental question. Exactly which American interests are served by the fighting? Does the massacre of innocent children, the destruction of cancer treatment pharmaceutical facilities, or boasting about bombing a country back to the Stone Ages serve any purpose other than further damaging the United States' global standing? Question mark. Is it not the case that America has entered this aggression as a proxy, influenced and manipulated by that regime? Is it not evident that Israel now aims to fight Iran to the last American soldier and the last American taxpayer dollar? Iran has pursued negotiations in good faith, reached agreements, and fulfilled its commitments. The decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, to escalate tensions, and to launch attacks of aggression in the midst of negotiations were choices made by the United States government, not Iran. Iran is an ancient civilization with a proud and resilient people. We prefer engagement and mutual respect over confrontation. We have outlasted many aggressors throughout history. All that remains of them are tarnished names in the pages of history, while Iran endures resilient, dignified, and proud. We extend our hand for peace and dialogue, not out of weakness, but from a position of strength and confidence in our civilization and our right to live in security and dignity. The Iranian people distinguish clearly between the American government and the American people. We hold no hostility towards you. May peace and justice prevail. Wow, that's it, Sulaiman. I wonder what that means.
Ground invasion.
I think it means peace.
Why?
Oh my God, I talk so much. When I took that sip of tea, I thought of you, Casey, because I thought she'd probably see me sipping my tea. Because I think he's saying that we extend our hand, you know, that last bit where it says we extend our hand not through a position of weakness, but through a position of strength. You know, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just hoping it means peace. I think Trump's become so discredited. He cannot lead this. He cannot lead anything anymore. His statements are more and more bizarre daily, and I think that's deliberate. And I think, as Andrew says every night, Iran has won this. It's slam dunk. It's now not even about regime. It's not about nuclear. It's not about anything. Now it's just about the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump's given multiple messages where he's like, "Oh, we're not bothered about the Strait of Hormuz. You GCC, you European Union, you can deal with it. We've got our own oil." So I think there's nothing left really. I think, but then America and Trump can never be trusted. So I don't know. Back to you.
Yeah, this is crazy. Let's see. I think the fact that I think I'm the only one who thinks this ground invasion is still happening, but it's interesting that they're able to cause such a situation where nobody knows what he's gonna do or what decision he's gonna make, and this is like huge. It's whether he's gonna go to war or not. Let me just read these thanks to Jay Dietz and Joe Nordic for your level 1 membership. Really appreciate you becoming an important member of the community. We really do appreciate you. And this is why you need to be following the YouTube guys, because look at this. They've taken. I know it sounds like we're complaining about this all the time, but actually, I'm literally one of the most censored guys on X. I had my blue check mark taken away. I had monetization taken away, and now I'm literally the only person on X where the purple ticker, where on the top, I'm removed from. I'm banned on Buy Me a Coffee, all the platforms. Like, this is literally why we're trying to expand into other platforms, because we knew this was coming. We were aware. So please make sure you're following our main YouTube channel. Please make sure you're following our second YouTube channel. This is the only thing we can do. We need to make sure we're getting as many people there. The second YouTube channel and the main YouTube channel, both of those tweets are in the nest, so you can follow those channels. So yeah, that's that. Please make sure you do, and I know Beatrix will continue to remind you guys, as will Casey, throughout. Casey, jump in, and then we'll go to go ahead, Casey, and then we'll go to Hassan.
Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to give a quick response to the letter. Beatrix, you read that so beautifully because I felt it. Like there was a moment where I just stopped moving around, and I really felt everything that he was saying in that letter. And in that letter, what I got from it is we're people who have been strong for many years, for centuries, and we're ancient civilization. And we honor God, and we move with civility. And while your country has been, and not to he's not making fun of the American people, he's just keeping it real. While your country has tried to put the boot on us, we still fortified our people. They are smart people. They've fortified their education system. They invested in the people of that country. And in the meantime, to keep it real, the American establishment has not done the same thing. Our school systems are not good. I mean, they're just not. We're not top, however many percent anymore we used to be, but we're not anymore. We see it because this is the stuff that conservatives were complaining about back in the day about the school systems and all that before they became, became warmongers. And I think that in the last sentence of his letter, when he says, we extend, we will talk in peace. We still will have peaceful dialogue. I think that's still a message of strength. I think there is a ground invasion coming, and they're letting us know, it's not us. It's you coming for us. And we're giving you one more chance to stop, not ceasefire, to stop completely, stop this operation and get out. We're giving you one more chance. But because they know that the people who are running this establishment are selfish, arrogant fools, they are still going to go on with their ground invasion or whatever else they're going to try to do. And all bets will be off and all stops are off because this is a war and these people cannot continue to just keep trying to play nice. This is a war and America hasn't played nice with them. And we are an Israeli proxy. Absolutely. I felt everything that he said in that letter. And yeah, guys, really, you do need to follow the second channel. I'm pushing really hard. That's where the interviews are going to be. It is imperative because Sulaiman, I didn't see you on the top. There was a day I didn't see you on the top. You are being censored. I don't know if everybody remembers it. I'm not going to stay long with this. I know I can plug forever, but I don't know if everybody remembers, but during the genocide, they banned Sulaiman from X. We woke up one morning and Sulaiman was gone. And, we made a loud noise to bring him back, but they've been after you for a long time. They wrote your name on a missile. These people do not like the truth. The truth is a weapon of mass destruction to these people. So when you subscribe and when you engage with the channels, it really does mean something because this is the eighth front of the war right now, which is information. Back to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, listen to KSP, guys. If you don't, you're racist or a misogynist. Follow the new YouTube channel. We've got an interview going live in about 34 minutes with Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. So make sure you're following it. Let's go to Casey. Sorry, Hassan. Hassan, what's your jump in with your thoughts? How do you think things are?
I mean, that sounded like quite a somber message to me. Sounded like invasion. I don't think the wasn't expecting. I think it's widely expected that there will be a ground invasion, and it's almost like
kind of what's the word? Reluctant acceptance of the situation. He's reluctantly accepting that they're going to face this aggression, and he's just reminding the world again that they are continuously being terrorized, continuously facing these the barbaric Epstein empire and Epstein class, and that they're innocent in this, and that whatever happens from here is the fault of the aggressors. So that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, Pezeshkian isn't the most direct, but maybe he's playing a role in showing the softer side, which is, the liberal side of the republic to the world, which and people underestimate how pragmatic and how liberal some parts of the Islamic Republic are, and that they're far more democracy than anything we've got in the West. To be honest with you, we've realized that now over the years that all these Epstein regimes, the UK Epstein regime, the Australian Epstein regime, the Canadian and American Epstein regimes, all these different Epstein regimes around the world, they're not actual democracies. And when you see someone like Pezeshkian, a lot of Iranians don't like him because he's not seen as firm enough. And it just sounds like, he doesn't really want to do this, doesn't want this war, but it is being forced upon them. And I see an inevitable ground invasion probably tomorrow with a 3-day weekend, giving them extra time to commit their atrocities and terrorism. So that's what's probably going to happen. And I think that's a message that if you read between the lines, it sounds like that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hassan. Yeah, I think the same thing. I think he was trying to get it out to the American people that, look, we got no issue with you. But let's see what happens. It's really confusing. I keep
So Hassan thinks there's going to be you think there's going to be no ground invasion? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said the opposite. There is going to be a ground invasion probably this weekend.
You think Iran are prepared for that?
Different things they can do, and I think that's probably why they've held off till this stage. They're waiting for certain state to see which state the land invasion comes from, perhaps from escalating to another level, maybe causing some severe destruction. I would hope at that point they do cause that severe destruction, because if they don't, then they will not, no countries will be deterred from doing this in future. So, I'm expecting that till now they've said, look, we're going to hurt you in a limited way, but if you escalate, then we're going to escalate and cause something that you can't, you'd be shocked by. So yeah, I'm expecting there'll be a ground invasion, and that, then there will be no excuse when the land invasion takes place, let's say from a specific country, a participant in that invasion, and so, they have to unleash at that stage on that country. Till now, it's been very much military to military, with some attack on specific terror kind of centers that are around the region, American and Israeli terror centers. But this time, it will probably be. I would expect that they would be a lot more aggressive, specifically on the countries that there's a land invasion from. But let's see.
But you think Iran is prepared and expecting
Oh
it?
yeah, I mean, look. The Islamic Republic is destroying bases, and it will have fortified its defenses over the last 30, 40 years. It'll have underground tunnels in certain areas. It'll have booby traps. It'll have probably have guys in shelters who can come out and fire rockets at Apaches and kind of low flying planes. It will have a huge army that can mobilize drones. It can unleash in the thousands if it needs to. And I'm sure there's some other hidden surprises in there. Not to mention that I'm sure it can escalate up, further with regards to its, missiles and drones in the region, affecting any place any countries that the invasion comes from. I think it's got a lot more in the tank. We saw today there was a significant escalation in occupied Palestine, where it hit them the hardest since the start of the war. So I think it always keeps a level of pain that it can unleash. It never unleashes everything. That's what I'm expecting, but we shall see.
So this is freaking me out a little bit because what you're basically saying, and you could be right, and I think it's hopeful, it's wishful thinking from me that you're not. What it basically means is if there is a ground invasion, it really hurts to say this, but it's going to be a massacre for the Americans. And if he was going to do a ground invasion, he would do it over this weekend. He would start it now, soon. What are we on now? Today's Wednesday. So he would probably start it tomorrow because then he's got a long weekend. Easter weekend, the markets are closed. Friday's a bank holiday. Monday's a bank holiday. In Europe and the UK, certainly. I don't know about in America, Easter weekend. So if he's going to do a ground invasion and it's going to be an absolute massacre for the Americans, that's why Iran has released this statement to say to the American people that, look, this was not a war for us by choice. You know, America, that the leadership is lying to you. We love the American people and people across the world. It's these governments. Look how much we've endured. Twice in the middle of negotiations, they've attacked us. They started this because of Israel. We offered them a hand, you know, even now from a position of strength, they can take it, but they don't want to take it. And it's basically consoling the American people for what's to come. This is really, really like, wow.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Wow.
I'm afraid I'm not going to shed any tears for invading forces. They're invading. They're not victims here. They have their participants. So, although it will be sad for the families who will lose their kids in that sense, but if you're invading, if you're invading a nation and you are invading and you know participating in that terrorism, then I will not have any sympathy for you. I'm afraid. I'll have sympathy for the Iranians who are losing their lives from this aggression.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Hassan, but it's not about the individuals that are invading. It's about the bigger picture I'm looking at. Iranians are dying in their thousands. Do you know what I mean? And not just now, but for the sanctions over decades, as that letter said. And none of this is of Iran's making at all. Nobody's taking this away. That this is terrorism, and it's terrorism where Trump and Netanyahu have inflicted this on Iran and on the region. No one's taking away from that. But then also, I personally didn't want it to go that far. And the fact that if it does go that far, any outcome of this, like, is firmly with America and Israel and the UK and Keir Starmer. Let's not even pretend that he's not involved. He's right up there. I read that whole list of countries out that he's trying to kind of badger into doing something for the Strait of Hormuz. Now he's doing that for America. This is not of Iran's doing, but I didn't want it to go this far.
Well, hey, Beatrice, you know, and Hassan, all of us know, none of us did, none of us do, none of us even can think about going this far, but sadly it has. And again, I'm standing in there saying the actual full ground force invasion will not happen. I don't in any way militarily see it happening whatsoever. The amphibious forces will be a feint. And the only thing, if there is a minimal slight incursion into Karg Island, like Sulaiman has carefully laid out and brilliantly laid out, and there are military experts that agree with Sully, it would be a very, the only possible scenario. And even then, now what? And so I don't see that even happening. So here's what we're dealing with. It's going to be, I've listened very carefully to the rhetoric coming out of Iran, to what Trump's insanity is going on and on. I've listened to Hegseth's speech, and I saw a broken down, whipped dog, and he looks like a whipped dog who sold his soul. General Kane, as he looked over to Hegseth, and I see pride working. So what we're going to see, Israel has, I'm so sorry, Iran has won the war, past tense, as I've said. United States will back out of this, and I agree with you, Beatrice, it won't happen. But let's say it does. Let's say Hassan's right. Hussein, let's say you are right, and this does happen, a bloodbath does happen, a blood sacrificial sacrifice, then America deserves everything it gets. We deserve the pain, unimaginable pain, but these bastards, and I use the word bastards in a very holy biblical way. They have no father. Their father they think is of Abraham, but it's really Satan. They get everything they deserve, and we of course will suffer accordingly. But every single military officer, if they follow this unlawful command, they deserve to be lynched, hung in a tribunal. I will do everything in my power to see every one of these bastards hung by the neck until dead, because they violated every code of ethics. They violated every code of honor. And I'll go face some of them. I've got more beloved mail coming into me, and I'll face you face to face. My name is posted here on X. You can come to my home. Let's do it. Whatever. I'm not hiding behind fake names, pseudonyms, and I don't hide behind VPNs. No, come on, let's do it. Come to my home. Let's talk about it. And I fear no man. I fear no man because I fear and reverence my God, and that's whom I fear. God will not be mocked. So I'll just land it by saying, I don't believe it'll happen. America's already lost face. We'll go in our little corner and be good little boys. Israel will be put on a choke chain, which they belong, until the eventual happens, which we know. I won't go into the biblical aspect of what will happen eschatologically to them in the end. But yeah, we get everything we deserve if we do this stupid ground invasion. We get everything we deserve.
Andrew, how do you think an empire can accept such a defeat and accept that a country another nation, an enemy of it, well, something that it considers very minor, can control the global energy supply and have the ability to choke them any time? Do you honestly think an empire will accept that?
Yeah, no, that's just it. We all recognize that America won't accept it, but America has no choice. We've already lost it. It's like being in a poker game. If you've ever played, I don't know if you've ever played poker, and it's already, the hands have been laid down. We've been exposed into derision, and it's past tense. It's already happened. We have our position to play. Now, I will say this again. What most don't realize is America is already a global nation state with China and Russia. We already exchange high-level, very sensitive information with their military. I was in Beijing, China. I saw our own DOD in high-level ballistic secret stuff going on. I'm talking about very high-level scientific ballistics. I don't know. Most people, when I say that, most people, it goes over their heads. They go, "Oh, what's that?" No, I was there. I talked to a R&D scientist. He is with the Department of Defense, United States of America, working in China. We know that they have us by the short hairs. We can't, and those rare earth materials. We know we have inevitable coming into space here. I told you we had Russian. Dobre utra, как вы поживаете? We had Russian. They couldn't. This guy could even freaking speak English. He was sitting there. I go, what is it? What is this? A Russian? He was in a meeting that I was in for submarine weapons launch systems. We're already all connected. It's a big joke. We're we all play it. It's a big money Ponzi scheme with money, and I won't want to get over my head on this. But it's already done, past tense. I saw it happen in Vietnam. I saw it happen in Iraq. I saw it happen. And the more I see from history, looking back, the more I see this being played over and over again. America lost in Vietnam, and I'll land it there.
I don't think you understand my question. If the nature of Trump is not to accept such a humiliation, so clear defeat, he will not quit without trying possible way to find some kind of face saving or continue the war just to keep himself looking strong. There's no chance he can retreat. Retreating for Trump means accepting he was a one on the American empire. That is something he cannot tolerate. He cannot accept. He will not accept, and he will do everything and within his power to continue and find, even if it's a 1% chance, he will keep gambling and trying to find a way out. I don't see any other way for him. There's no way he will retreat.
It's already happened, son. It's already happened, past tense. You're speaking about something that's already happened. He's already lost, and the whole world knows it. He knows it, but he's saying we won, although we lost. I wish you would really take 30 minutes, go read the Paris Peace Accords and how Nixon, peace through strength, we're going to bomb Vietnam into oblivion, and we all saw that happening. Why do you think I stopped voting in 1973? Why do you think I stopped voting and said I reject this ridiculous voting system we have in democracy? It's a big joke in America. Why did I stop voting in 1973? Because of Richard Nixon doing the Trump thing. We will win with power. We have power. We're America. No, we didn't. We got our ass kicked in Vietnam. We walked away from it. 58,000 dead bodies for nothing, but yet we won, but we didn't. I know I'm not making sense to you, son. And you know what? We'll see in the next week, next 3 days, we'll see. And if I'm wrong, I'll come up here and say, man, I was a real dumbass. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really stupid. I'm sorry. I'll apologize. But Trump already lost, but he'll make it look like the idiot will make it look like a win, Hassan, even though the whole world knows, except for his MAGA Q-tard cultists, they will believe him, but the rest of us don't.
Thanks, guys. Let's go to Casey. Casey, you think there's going to be boots on the ground? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Beatrix, for giving me the mic. I absolutely do, and I think this weekend is actually the perfect time for it to play on the Christian Zionist evangelical, let's just keep it real, sentiment of, a bunch of people got killed during Easter. Look at what Iran has done. I don't know, Andrew, shout out to you and everything, but I don't know why anybody thinks this is anything logical coming out of this evil regime that we have, the Trump administration, right? And I'm putting everything on him. No longer will I do this whole Israel dragged us. You're a man. You could have stood up to Israel. You didn't. And so we shouldn't even be in this war. We shouldn't be in this war. If this works perfectly for them, they don't like you. I'm sorry. I have to say it clearly. This regime hates you. So you are not a life. You're not a soul to them. And I'm not trying to get all deep. The American soldier is nothing but a hammer. And so everything has to look like a nail to that hammer. But if that hammer breaks, they'll just buy a new hammer. That's how they look at it. They don't look at it as a life. That's why they send American soldiers to go die for wars that we should not be in the first place. This is not the first time it happened. There is no turning back from this for them. They have no reverse gear. They are irrational. And of course, they have no problem doing this, and it will work for their PR. What I'm scared of is that they'll take it too far. But I don't want to talk about, nuclear and all of that stuff because I'm not God and I'm just not trying to put it there. But when it comes to Americans being killed in wars, please, our establishment has been good at this for decades. Decades. They don't have any problem doing this. They don't care. This is nothing. It's just another page in the book. And yes, they will be slaughtered. And that's what I was saying. Like you said, Beatrix, when you just now were saying I'm afraid that these people are going to be sent into basically a life-ending mission and they're going to be slaughtered. Absolutely. That's what the letter's saying. We didn't have any beef with you. We didn't come looking for you, but you're coming to us and we're fighting for our lives.
Percy, let me just interject you. We've got breaking news. Politico is reporting, and this is coming from Politico, breaking news. Trump will deliver a primetime Oval Office speech declaring the Iran war is winding down and that U.S. objectives have been met. He is expected to declare victory while shifting responsibility for reopening the Strait of Hormuz to European and Gulf allies. Did this chick say it or not? Did I just not say that? Did I not predict that?
Why are you
word
believing
for
him?
word. I said he's going to put I literally said that word for word.
Yeah, but why
If he does it,
are you believing him though?
I'm not believing him. I said that. I predicted that was going to happen. I literally, when I was doing my news roundup, I said, I think he's going to declare victory. He's going to say, Strait of Hormuz, Gulf, Europe, it's your problem. Deal with your frigging problem. We've done well. We've achieved all our objectives. I'm magnanimous. I'm victorious. That's what I literally predicted. Twice I said that.
Yeah, she predicted.
I'm saying Politico's now reporting the same. We'll see, Hassan.
She did.
I don't trust him. Don't get me wrong.
She said he would say that, Hassan.
I said that, right?
She
Word
said
for
he
word.
would say that, Hassan. That's what Beatrice is saying. He would say that, and that's what he said.
No worries. No worries.
I'm not saying I trust him. I'm not saying that he's going to say that and not try to do something dodgy. like we know, because I'm not saying that even means that Iran stops. That's not enough for Iran to stop. I'm not saying that makes peace with everybody because the sanctions are still there. I'm just saying, I think that's what Trump is going to say in his speech. Not that it means anything, but I actually predicted he's going to say that. That's what Politico is reporting. That's all I'm saying. Basically means a few more mind games. But sorry, Casey, you can finish your point, and then Brother Hassan, you can jump in, and then we go to Jeremy.
Look, I'll just take 45 more seconds. But that came. I was like going hard, and you were like, "Oh, this is what he's gonna say." No, but you're right. You did say he was gonna say that, and I don't doubt that he's gonna say that. For me, still, what it just means is that American citizens should just pray and be careful, because it just puts us at a higher risk for Israeli aggression. I'll leave it there. This is the KC's thought. Allegedly, in my opinion. Because when I look at the White House tweeting out Operation Epic Fury, and they're saying clear objectives since day one: destroy Iran's missile arsenal, annihilate their navy, destroy terrorist proxies, ensure Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. It's the third one for me that throws me off, because we're still what they call Terries, of course, Hezbollah, which I don't call a Terry, right? They're still there. So that part didn't get met. So like you said, Big Tricks, I think he's going to say that and still say there was a reason for us to go in. I don't know. But of course, the messaging, they lie to us all the time anyway. But yeah, back to you guys. It's just funny how that came through right away.
You know what? He's going to declare that. He's going to say exactly that. And then they're going to carry on bombing. Because that's what he's done. He's declared victory 14 times since this war started. And nothing's changed. Market manipulation.
I mean, he's gonna declare victory. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, are you saying he's gonna pull out completely?
No, I'm saying he cannot be trusted, Sulaiman. I just said that he's going to carry on bombing. I mean, he can't do anything. He's going to do what Israel wants him to do, right?
Yeah, this is what doesn't make sense. So there are 10 A-10 Warhogs landed at the RAF. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to say the least. I'm just going to give you guys an update on what's happening with interviews. In about 10 minutes, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar coming on. So what we're going to do is, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it this time, and then we'll figure out if it's not the right thing to do. We're obviously new to this, so apologies for any errors. But we're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar come on. We're going to switch for the YouTube to the new channel on YouTube, so everyone come to the new channel of YouTube. And then after that, we should have Trita Parsi come on. After that, we've got Ryan Dawson. Tomorrow, up to now, we've got Carrie Pergine, Professor Morandi, Larry Johnson sorted for tomorrow. So those are the next 6 interviews. I think the blinders, personally. It's going to be interesting, to say the least, what happens in those. But yeah, just to let you know, the YouTube guys, I'm just going to put the tweet out now. I haven't done the Morandi one as well. Oh, and the Simon Dixon interview is going out as well later on tonight on the new channel as well. Okay, what else? I think that's everything. So yeah, let's continue with this. Let me just quickly tweet this out. But yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Hey, I'm with Hassan. Trump, it definitely is just totally full of hot air. I'm in the camp that there will be no boots on the ground. They definitely have no consent of the U.S. citizens. If you look at recent polling data with regard to President Trump, outside of that goofy CNN poll that literally only polled like MAGA sycophants, and then came up with that goofy 100% number, overwhelmingly, all the other corporate polls across the spectrum all show him not even pegging at 40% approval. Now, pair that with the fact, if you look back on the buildup to the Iraq War, they were manufacturing consent. They had Colin Powell going to the UN, feeding a bunch of crap about WMDs, showing those goofy storyboards with the trucks and, all the things that were akin to the Sharpie bomb that Netanyahu displayed in the UN years ago. And so that's where we're at. They have not had a full court press of every major cabinet official going out on a 5-day, like forget the 5 days, at least 6 days a week, hitting all of the various different news outlets, putting out the propaganda of how important this war and this endeavor is. In actuality, the United States citizens overwhelmingly had no idea that for a couple months prior, the United States had been building up an enormous amount of hardware, poised, ready, cocked, and locked to hit Iran. It blindsided them. Iran was more aware that this was taking place than the average U.S. citizen. And so now what you have is everybody's kind of like, oh my God, we didn't expect this. You have a lot of people that supported Trump and his agenda, again, getting lied to, told one thing in the 2024 election and doing the polar opposite, losing key people, losing, even losing people like in the, kind of the Steve Bannon spectrum, as recently as Fringy, losing Alex Jones, losing all the sycophants that knew this wasn't the bill of goods we were sold. So I think tonight, sure, he'll take a victory lap, but in actuality, it won't be a victory, because really the only way he could accelerate and go for like an optic of what Sulaiman has been, downloading to all of us, is they would have to manufacture consent, and in order to do that, you got to have a huge, hardcore, spectacular, dwarf 9/11 type of event on our soil. And I'm not ruling anything like that out. If that's not in the cards, then Trump doesn't have the consent by the American people to continue this operation, especially when we in this country, speaking as a United States citizen, our country hasn't healed from COVID. We are still in a post-COVID recovery, and we can't recover. It's an absolute mind blower. I still, I live in the deep woods in America's Southeast, and at my local grocery store, I still see people that literally will get up to check out and they will have to put items back because they don't have enough to cover their own groceries. Now couple that with the fact that the average person in this country trying to fill up their fuel tanks just to commute, not to have fun, is getting screwed, and they didn't know. And had everybody been given a choice, hey, should we go and attack Iran or not? Overwhelmingly, everybody would have said no. So tonight, there may be a collective exhale if indeed he's telling the truth, which he may not be, because he's always wanted, what does he say? He wants the oil. He's a thief. And he's a liar. And, and shame on me, because I voted for him. And I thought there was just that teaspoon of a chance. And it turns out, once again, we get screwed. So anyways, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for that. Guys, we will be moving to the tagged link on the YouTube. I'm quickly just setting up. So make sure if you're on the YouTube, we're going to be moving across there. Everyone click on it, the link that's tagged. What else? Yeah, I think I've set the redirect up on the YouTube so you automatically move, but you need to have it in your own YouTube settings where it automatically moves you if you don't move yourself. Because I know some people will have it listening on the side and maybe you're like, oh, I can't bother moving. So if you have the redirect set up on your own thing, you will be moved automatically. So make sure you do that, guys. Have your redirect set up so you can be automatically moved. That way it's going to be easier between when we're moving from one stream to another stream. Andy, jump in while I'm setting up.
Yeah, I feel a lot of Jeremy's sentiments. I mean, I voted for Trump too. I thought we were going to have no new wars as well, because I mean, during his first term, I mean, yeah, sure, he did some interventions and strikes, but he didn't do any of these invasions. He didn't do any George W. Bush style stuff which this is quickly spiraling into. And I mean, yeah, during his first term, I was just in high school, so like I was like, yeah, he didn't start any of this massive stuff that Bush did. He did some tax cuts. Yeah, this was great. And so and then we had Biden, we had 20 million illegals. So I'm like, holy crap, this was like night and day difference. And we had all of the crazy stuff under Biden. So I was like, this is night and day difference between terms 1 and 2. Of course, I'm going to vote for Trump. It was like, it was a no-brainer. You had Kamala going up there and putting together word sentences, and yes, we were lied to, and it's absolutely disgusting. So now it's like it's like we have to pretty much almost be we have to be single issue voters on the Israel issue. If a candidate's not explicitly against this alliance, calling out Israeli influence, it's not just about calling out shadowy deep state influence like Trump did, because now everyone's hip to the fact that the deep state really means Israel and Zionism at this point. So unless you have someone like a Tucker, an MTG, a Massey calling out that the deep state really is Israel and Zionism, then it's not going to matter. We can't just have Vance run and say, oh, it's the deep state, and then give money to Israel, because Israel is that deep state. So I think that's what people have really woken up to, because Trump was supposed to be that guy that was going to change stuff, and he wasn't. So I think Trump has further moved things along in the fact that because he didn't talk with a filter, like before, you couldn't even talk about mass deportations or any of that stuff, but he didn't even do that. But the fact that he talked about it, I do think he at least moved the Overtron window in a way that allowed us to have these conversations. Like, these conversations wouldn't have been and allowed us to talk more openly about Zionism, because he did kick the can down the road and created like like anti-Zionism used to be a more of a left-wing thing, and then it picked up a lot more on the right because of people who felt betrayed by Trump. I mean, that's really so. I mean, that's really the only thing Trump did. He failed so spectacularly, it woke people up.
Thanks for that, Andy. Yeah, guys, YouTube guys, I'm just going to walk you through this. We're going to be ending the YouTube stream. We're going to start the new stream. So make sure you click on the tweet in the